Let's do it. Here we go. It's the Deeper Dive NFL edition, Sunday, December 15th, 2019. It's week 15 upon us already. Postseason only a couple weeks away. 13 games today. I'm Dave Loughran, with me, Ben Rasa, and number one ranked DFS player in the world, Alex Baker, Awesemo himself. Boys, don't all jump in at once. How we doing today?
Floor is yours, man. You have the big sweat today, Alex. This is your moment. A lot of money up for grabs down in South Beach.
Thanks, man. I'm pretty excited because it's always fun. Week 15 is one of the last chances of the year, or of the basically until the NFL season starts back up again, to win those shattering prizes. So it hasn't really happened to me yet this NFL season. I had one really good week, but overall, pretty good. I didn't win any Millie Makers or anything, or even come close like one of you guys. But this is the last chance, so we're gonna have to make our best plays today.
Well, we're pulling for you. By the way, never heard of anyone refer to $2 million as life shattering, but hey,
yeah, those are good problems to have.
Yeah. And Alex is all dressed already, man. I got sweatpants and a sweatshirt on. Ben looks like he's followed suit.
I'm not in good shape here. I woke up with a sore throat. I'm not a happy camper. I'm trailing in the disheveled ranks right now.
Good. It's not just me.
No.
Oh man. All right. Well, 13 games to talk about here. Let's just dive right into it. We've got, of course, Fantasy Draft sponsors today's show. If you haven't checked them out, go ahead and do so. We've got 13 games to touch on. We will start with Carolina and Seattle. Ben Rasa, pretty appealing game, actually. It's strange in that Carolina has a very good secondary and Seattle has pretty good run defense. But you have Christian McCaffrey, who's just been electric all season long. He's coming off a couple underwhelming spots, but still the most reliable fantasy option in the game, along with probably Michael Thomas. And then on the other side, Rashad Penny's out for the year with an ACL. Chris Carson has already been seeing 20-plus touches per game, but it looked like we were beginning to see the start of a timeshare in the backfield or a committee, and that's gone. So expect Carson to shoulder a huge load again. And then really in the pass game, just setting this up for you here, DJ Moore has been really good this season, only getting better as the season wears on. And then on the other side, Lockett's gone from really good to really underwhelming. DK Metcalf's going to see a lot of James Bradbury today, and Josh Gordon was actually targeted 5 times last time out. Oh, and Ian Thomas in Greg Olson's stead got 10 targets and a touchdown last game. So there's a lot to digest on this one.
Yeah, there is. I mean, the thing that stood out the most to me was what you mentioned right at the top. Penny is on IR. Chris Carson now has an absolute stranglehold. He could be fumbling all day. They can't pull him at this point.
Seriously, yeah.
Like, this is his dream scenario. He's going to have, I think, easily 20 touches against dead last DVOA against the run. It's a perfect spot for him. I think he makes sense in all formats. Other than that, though, yeah, Lockett, I think we all kind of knew the lack of targets would eventually catch up. He was just running too efficient to maintain that. So I don't have a ton of interest elsewhere on Seattle. And on the other side, I mean, of course, McCaffrey, if you have the money, DJ Moore, another good option. Ian Thomas is the one I struggle with. I think I didn't really love him. The more I looked, the less I liked him last week, and he obviously paid off with 10 targets. I don't think we see that here, but, you could still do probably worse if you're paying down. I still don't think I'll get to him much despite that price tag.
I mean, dude, there's no question that over the last 2 weeks, at least for me, not going heavier on dirt cheap tight ends didn't work for me. Usually, or at least many times in the past, it's paid off by not going to a 35% Higbee or, a super chalky Ian Thomas. But Higbee 2 straight weeks has career games, Alex. And then Ian Thomas also has a really solid outing himself, getting into the end zone. Last week, he was $2,500 minimum salary like Higbee was the week before. He had 5 for 57 and a score. So the bottom barrel tight ends the past 2 weeks have been where the money's at.
Yeah, I mean, this season we've seen a lot of really, really popular plays smash, and I feel like people might be overconfident at this point that if someone's in a good spot, it's a higher probability play than it is. Ian Thomas, I think he's pretty obvious, like beyond a cursory glance, that not a very consistent player. And with Greg Olsen down 1 week, he produced. So I think people might overestimate his chances this week.
What do you think from this game on both sides stands out to you? Currently, this game has a total that's the second highest on the slate, behind only Houston and Tennessee. Right now, it's at 49 points. So, I mean, I would expect a decent amount of points to be scored here. Seattle's a 6-point favorite with a 27.5 total, 21.5 for the Panthers. Are you targeting this game heavily?
I wouldn't say heavily. I mean, I think there are a couple guys that are really great plays this week, Carson and McCaffrey. The passing game is a little bit harder to get to because Lockett, as we mentioned, there's some red flags there. I do like him as kind of a buy low. The prices really aren't that good on the Seattle side, but DJ Moore on Carolina is someone that stands out week after week just because of the volume of targets he's getting.
Ben, who would you say your top plays from this specific game are today?
Carson is far and away number one.
Yeah.
I think it's probably DJ Moore second. Him and McCaffrey, I think, are fine. It's just price. You know, when I have the money, I'm going to go get McCaffrey. And if not, I can get exposure and feel pretty good about it with someone like DJ Moore.
Okay. Yeah, for me, I would say Carson, like whether you want to or not, it's hard to get away from Carson, at least entirely. It's a really favorable spot. Carolina allowing a league worst 5.3 yards per carry to opposing running backs this season. They've been gashed on the ground by good teams and bad teams alike. Football Outsiders has them 32nd in run defense DVOA. Pro Football Focus has them ranked second to last in run defense grade. It's just really bad. So Carson there. I'm still going to get to some McCaffrey. I think do we have an ownership update? That would be interesting to see what we have here.
I think it was overnight.
I think you're right. So we do have one overnight. McCaffrey's at 15%, Ben. Carson's at 21. So, you know, they're gonna have some ownership. Ian Thomas is up there as one of the highest owned tight ends too. So this game isn't going to be ignored by any stretch.
No, there's just, you know, Chris Carson's interesting because he's in a pretty loaded price range, and we're going to talk about Saquon obviously and some of those guys. But to me, Penny being out to me is a gigantic impact.
Huge.
He is just, it solidifies everything that you already want with Carson. It just makes the chances that doesn't happen almost zero. Honestly, I don't know how he doesn't get the work today.
Okay. Anything else on this one, Alex? Either side?
No, I think the total is a little bit misleading here because I don't love the game stack here.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So not interested in really anything from Carolina is what you're saying?
Well, just like the quarterback wide receiver combos aren't like all that exciting.
Agreed.
Because Wilson is just too expensive. Kyle Allen, they do too much on the ground. So I think that it'll be all about the running backs and DJ Moore for me.
All right, let's talk about Cincinnati and New England then. This game should not stay competitive. If it did, it'd be a surprise, but stranger things have happened. Right now, the total is a very underwhelming 42 points. Patriots 10.5-point favorites on the road, 26.3 implied total, 15.8 for the Bengals. Let's start and probably finish with the Patriots, Alex. Is there anything here that you really like when you've got guys like James White and Julian Edelman, who was questionable but expected to play? The odd thing about James White is over the past however many weeks, over the past 5 weeks, the Patriots have lost 3 games. And those are 3 of White's best games of the season. Last one wasn't phenomenal, but in games where they need production from their running backs, they just completely abandoned Sonny Michel. And this just doesn't feel like a game where they need James White to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Patriots, their strategy varies a lot from week to week, so you can kind of make some intuitive leaps of faith, like we're talking about here, where James White has been seeing the field a lot more than he had been at the start of the season. As you mentioned, a lot of it may have been game scripts. So I went back and I looked at all the snap counts, and I found that on a usual week, James White would see somewhere around 50% of the uh, passing plays. The past few weeks, he was more around 70%. So I think it probably goes back down to that 50% level, and he's not going to stand out a ton at a salary if you make that assumption.
Okay. Yeah, Ben, I don't really have a lot of interest in James White this week. Like I said, maybe he breaks off a couple of long catch and runs, but it doesn't seem like a spot they need him. I wouldn't be surprised if Sonny Michel gets involved, reemerges as a 18 carry guy today, and gets as many yards.
Yeah, I thought that last week. It's the Patriots. I
But
mean,
to be
I know
fair, that's a good Kansas City offense for last.
It is, but I don't know. We're gonna find out, because these are the type of games that, of course, I mean, if the Patriots lose, clearly they have some issues. Even if they win, this is a spot, this offense, despite the personnel issues, should look better. And you just have to ask yourself, where is it going to come from? Unless someone like Sonny Michel emerges, it's Edelman and it's White. So I do think in full point PPR, you can still go to James White. He has a good floor. I worry a little about the ceiling in tournaments, especially if he doesn't score. Even though it's Cincinnati and they have an awful defense, it's hard. I mean, I'm not getting to any Brady, so if you take him out, it's really just a one-off here and there, and they don't have many weapons to really target, despite the good situation.
I know. You would think you'd get a little bit more of this for a team that has one of the higher totals on the slate, but I'm not getting there. If you landed on Edelman, no one's gonna blame you for that. I think Edelman's entirely fine. Some James White, fine, but I don't know, Alex. It feels like in this game there aren't really any priorities.
Yeah, I think Edelman is pretty interesting, just because he's the only receiver that gets the full game workload on the Patriots, and they're projected to do really well. I mean, Cincinnati being a terrible team. So he makes a nice play, but it's hard to feel really confident because they may not have to throw the ball that much.
Ben, anything from Cincinnati?
I mean, I do think that you can go to Joe Mixon if you want to, obviously.
I'm so surprised.
Because he's just straight balling. 23 carries last week. He's getting a handful of targets. Even, this team, it's kind of a weird situation with them, because if they didn't pull Dalton in the middle of the year, they'd be bad, but they wouldn't be. I mean, I don't think they'd be the worst team in the league record-wise. So I think in a game like this, they are at home. It's like a 10-point spread. I don't expect them to be shut out or anything. I'm not looking to stack them, but someone like Mixon, in the mid-range running backs, I don't mind plugging in there.
Alex, anything from Cincinnati to round this game out?
I could see taking some shots on Alex Erickson. Auden Tate had been the wide receiver too. He's out for the rest of the season. John Ross is coming off an injury, and he was limited last week. So that's leading me to believe that Alex Erickson will see more snaps, and he's been really good when he's been on the field. So I'm thinking that maybe he makes a nice kind of flyer.
Okay. I don't think I'm getting anything here. The price points are all really appealing, but that's pretty much it for me. There's a lot of cheap wide receivers for me that we'll get to that I think I like a little bit more, but they're all super sketchy. And the next game, we're going to talk about a couple of them, and we'll do that right now. But before we do, fantasydraft.com is our proud sponsor of the NFL Deeper Dive. It's the only rake-free daily fantasy sports site in the industry. Did you know that over time a player can lose up to 30% of his bankroll due to rake alone? Fantasy Draft has fixed that, friends. Only on Fantasy Draft are 100% of entry fees paid out to the winners 100% of the time, which, Ben, that means more money in your pocket.
That's right.
Sign up at fantasydraft.com with referral code AWESEMO, AWESEMO, and you'll get a free 7-day trial membership to Awesemo Plus. How about that? Huh. Can't beat that, man.
I have to disagree with this 30% thing, man, because you can definitely lose all of your money on rake.
Oh yeah, no question about it.
Fair point.
But whether or not we have those numbers correct, one thing is certainly correct. That 100% number, 100% of entry fees paid out to winners 100% of the time does mean more money in your pocket. So sign up fantasydraft.com, use the referral code AWESEMO Plus. You get a 7-day free trial membership. Now hold on a second. That can't be a 7-day free trial membership to Awesemo Plus. That can't be right.
No, the free trial is you don't have to pay the membership fee.
Right. It's a 7-day free trial to fantasydraft.com.
Yeah.
Right. Come on, guys.
Yeah, so that's pretty sweet because their membership fee is a lot lower than what you pay on other sites for rake, but you don't even have to pay that when you first start off on there.
Exactly. So you go and you bink something, and now you've got that covered for maybe ever. So yeah, use the sign up code also. We get a 7-day free trial membership to fantasydraft.com, not Awesemo Plus. All right. Tampa Bay, Detroit. Alex, let's talk about Justin Watson, baby. No, in all seriousness, though, Jameis Winston playing with a broken thumb on his throwing hand. So here was the discussion yesterday, and I think Spags and I talked about this. You remember the movie Rookie of the Year? No? Yes?
I never saw it.
No? Ben, have you?
No.
Where the kid breaks his shoulder and now he's throwing 100 miles per hour?
What do we want to talk about here? Rookie of the Year. Let's do this.
So, Josh, what I'm saying, thank you for bailing on me.
Of course. Henry Rowengartner, man, I'm here. I'm here for this.
Maybe because Winston is so inaccurate, this broken thumb is going to make him like the Rookie of the Year kid, and he can't miss.
What if he falls when he's out on the field and resets it, though, and then he doesn't have the ability to not miss?
Oh, God.
Dennis Quaid?
I think he'd have to have somebody break it, re-break it for him.
Okay, that's fair.
If Winston gets a career performance today, I think we'll see quarterbacks breaking their thumbs to enhance performance.
That's preposterous that neither of you guys have seen that movie. Josh, would you agree?
Yeah, especially Alex.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
He's pitching in Chicago in this game.
Okay.
Like, he is a Cub in the movie.
Is he a Cub?
I think so. That's the way I remember it, at least.
I always get it confused with Angels in the outfield.
Well, that would be the
guys.
Angels. That one should be really easy to remember.
No. I'm well aware that that's the Angels. I mean, I always confuse what team it was for Rookie of the Year.
If I'm wrong about it being the Cubs, my bad.
I bet you were wrong.
Nah, if I'm wrong, my bad.
Oh, I bet you guys have never seen Sandlot either.
I actually did see that last year for the first time.
What?
But so we gotta book it, man. Awesemo movie night, Rookie of the Year.
All right, beautiful.
Dennis
Let's
Quaid
do
in
it.
this movie, or am I thinking of a different movie?
Ben, have you never
I
seen
think you're thinking
Sandlot?
of The Rookie.
The Rookie. Okay. Well, yeah, Rookie of the Year, The Rookie.
That's where he comes back as the pitcher for the Rays.
Okay, I don't. I'm not gonna go on a tangent, but every Dennis Quaid movie is a Kevin Costner movie where they're like an alcoholic and then they dust up and they can still throw 90 miles an hour and then they save their marriage because they become a pitcher. It's hard to order these 10 movies called Rookie.
Rookie of the Year, the kid's like 13 years old.
Okay, never seen that.
But answer my question. Have you seen The Sandlot?
Yeah, I've seen The Sandlot. Not a lot, though. I've seen certain movies. We've talked about this, Sophie, like 75 to 100 times.
It's a travesty that you did Sandlot's not like one at the time. I don't know.
Not in the rotation.
I mean, I grew up with basketball movies like He Got Game, some Jesus Shuttleworth, man.
And like the Basketball Diaries. Wasn't that the one where he's
that's Leo.
Is the junkie DiCaprio, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a phenomenal flick. Anyway, I digress. Tampa Bay, Detroit. Ben, I'll start with you. You've got the Rookie of the Year situation. He's going to come out. He's going to be the most accurate quarterback ever. Probably not. And in all seriousness, I'd be lying if I said I didn't have some trepidation about a quarterback having a broken thumb on his throwing hand, although Bruce Arians says that Winston's going to play. 46-point total. Bucs are still favored. 5.5 points on the road. Get this. This opened at 3.5. Maybe Vegas knows that this thumb injury is going to help him too. Opened at 3.5. They're now almost touchdown favorites on the road. Their total has come up a point. The spread has gone from 3.5 to 5.5. That's pretty wild, knowing that Winston has a broken thumb. Mike Evans is out for the year. I don't know. I'd be lying if I said Godwin and even someone like Justin Watson, maybe OJ Howard, have to be in the conversation. What are we doing, Benjamin?
Yeah, I think I'm certainly worried a little about Jameis, but it's more so if I'm going to, start him. I like these one-off receivers. Godwin, I mean, he's going to get a price crump. He's going to be popular. I don't know how he reacts without Evans on the other side. But then you have, as you mentioned, these new secondary guys. This Watson guy who I really don't know who that is, but he's obviously playing a good amount. OJ Howard's going to be involved. They have Perryman, and they're all very cheap. So you can look to these guys with or without Jameis. This is a game that I have a lot of interest in on both sides, actually. I think it's a big range of outcomes game. I worry about the floor, but that's why it's one of my favorite games to stack specifically, just because I think there's so many viable targets on both sides.
For sure. And Alex, Watson saw 8 targets last game. All of them came after Mike Evans went down. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that, Justin Watson is a top option by any stretch, but you know that Winston and the Bucs are going to still throw the football. So outside of Godwin, and talk to me about where you're at on him, you're left with Watson, Rashad Perriman, and OJ Howard.
Well, I think Watson's my least favorite of the cheap wide receivers because there is more uncertainty here. Scotty Miller didn't play the last game, and he had been the guy a few weeks ahead of Watson. Now, I don't know if Evans being out will elevate Watson instead of Miller, but I definitely think there is some uncertainty here, and I'm happy enough with Godwin. The other guys I could do without.
You're absolutely right on Miller, though. If that, I guess he's off the injury report now, isn't he?
So, yeah, he's going to play. How much these two guys will play, it's up to speculation.
Okay. Yeah, that definitely hurts. What about Perriman? Any interest there for either of you guys?
I'm kind of interested because there's a lot of variance in a guy who catches less than a half of his passes. Because if a couple go his way, then you see an incredible payoff for the salary.
Ben, what about you? Perriman, and if you had to give me your top options outside of Godwin for Tampa Bay in a game stack, who would it be?
So I would have OJ Howard second. I just feel a little more confident that I know he's going to get, middling 5, 6, 7 targets, and he can work off that. Whereas the receivers behind Godwin, there's going to be opportunities. I'm just not exactly sure for who. So mix and match them in stacks, no problem. But that's how I would order them personally.
Okay. Ben, what are you doing on the other side of this game? Detroit lost Marvin Jones to the year. He's on the IR. David Blau has not been good, but Kenny Golladay against this Tampa Bay secondary, Danny Amendola. They even lost Marvin Hall to the IR. So, I mean, is there? Oh, and Bo Scarborough, last I looked, is like a legit game time decision. He'd been seeing a ton of looks every game. What are your thoughts on Detroit?
Yeah, this is where I could get into trouble. I like David Blau quite a bit, actually. I know he's not great, but he's thrown the ball 38 and 40 times. He's at home here. And if you stack the Lions, it's one of the cheapest stacks around, and you know where the production's going. TJ Hawkinson went on IR after the Thanksgiving game. Now Marvin Jones is on IR. So it's Golladay, it's Amendola. There's someone named Chris Lacey on this team apparently, but I'm pretty confident that Golladay is going to be extremely busy today. And I do think in a lot of game scripts, Blau was forced to throw around 40 times again. And if you're telling me I get a quarterback towards the bottom of the salary range with that type of volume with no running game, especially if Scarborough sits, I'm going to take that chance more often than not, and we'll see what happens.
Okay. Alex, are you on the Lions here?
I'm on Amendola. I think that he's the most significant beneficiary of Marvin Jones being out because he had been seeing the field about 2/3 of the time, and now it'll be 100% of the time or close to it. So I think that is enough of a bump, even though David Blau is a pretty big downgrade from the other quarterbacks.
Okay. Anything else here, Ben?
No, like I think, Alex mentioned this earlier with Perryman specifically, but to me, the whole game takes on that, there's a lot of range of outcomes. These are inefficient quarterbacks in a game environment that I think could be out of control scoring, or we could see two teams that are just unable to get out of their own way. To me, that is more of a stacking type game than a one-off type game, and that's how I'm approaching it.
For sure. All right, let's keep it moving. Then we'll go to Chicago and Green Bay. Alex, your Bears going up against the divisional rival Green Bay Packers. This is the game that started off the season and was like the worst opener ever. 10-3, Thursday night football. What a beauty that was. I don't know if it's going to be, any better today. 40.5 total. Packers are 4-point favorites. They've got an implied total of 22.3, 18.3 for the Chicago Bears. So, like, Aaron Jones is that type of guy that, last week I got him right. I think it was 2 weeks or a week before that I got him wrong. Very easy to get him wrong, but when you get him right, he has monster games. Like, his ceiling has been insane, especially because of how frequently he's used once they get towards the goal line. But here's a much more difficult matchup. He struggled mightily against this team earlier in the year. Devontae Adams is reasonably priced. And on the other side of this game, I don't really know what you're going to look towards. Allen Robinson, Anthony Miller, David Montgomery's really struggled. Is there anything that jumps out at you from Green Bay or Chicago?
I mean, this game is just probably my least favorite of the slate. I think that Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers kind of has this reputation as being a top quarterback, but the numbers just don't bear it out this year. Only 7.4 yards per pass. That's just around the league average. And going up against the Bears, a team that struggles to put up points and is above average defensively, is a recipe for failure for fantasy scoring. So I think I'm probably going to have a few pieces of this game, especially the Green Bay side.
Okay. Ben, similar thinking or do you differ here?
No, pretty similar. It's a good game in life. I just don't think it's going to breed a ton of fantasy production. It's cold. I think it's more of a grinded out type spot. Aaron Jones has been one of the crazier. I don't really understand why he's so boom bust. I think it's probably just, an outlier. But so far this year, he's been non-existent, or he scores like 3 touchdowns in the game.
Yeah.
You have to work around, Devontae Adams is obviously incredibly impacted by those boom bust games. It's hard for him to get there in those type of environments. Having said that, I still don't mind him. I think you'll probably get an ownership discount off Hopkins, who of course is a fantastic play. But other than that, I don't have a ton of interest in either side.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's also possible for Jamal Williams just to come in and get opportunities, which is one of the reasons I think that Aaron Jones just can have those miserable games. But I'm not excited about anything here. I guess if there was one spot where I'd be okay to get to because of ownership, I would want to see what Allen Robin's ownership is. If he's really low owned, I might not be against that. He's at 2% right now. Sub 7K on DraftKings, only because he's just really good. I mean, this is just simply a good player at a fair price with no ownership. And that's the only reason I'd get there. He's scored 4 touchdowns over his last 3 games. Clearly Trubisky's favorite target, but that's it. And I'm really just reaching. So let's keep it moving. Denver, Kansas City. Alex, we saw last week, Drew Lock tore apart the Houston Texans. It was really maybe the most surprising game we've seen all year. Completed 22 of 27 passes, 3 touchdowns, an interception, even rushed for 15 yards. But Vegas ain't buying it. The people either aren't buying that. You've got right now the Kansas City Chiefs are 10.5 point favorites. It opened at 12. 10.5 point favorites at home, 44.5 point total. They have a 27.5 total, one of the highest on the day, 17 for the Broncos. This game is kind of tough from a stacking perspective because really don't know if I want to run it back with anything given the spread being so significant. What are you doing with the Chiefs first?
It's definitely not my favorite game. I think that the Chiefs are fully healthy and the price tags are pretty high, so that makes it hard to get to some guys like Kelce or Tyreek Hill, but they are top options at the position. Watkins as well, like kind of expensive, but it depends on the site because on let's see, FanDuel and Yahoo is pretty cheap. And then at the running back position, they went with the 3-man committee last week, so I'm not touching that.
Okay. Ben, talk to me about this one. Kansas City at home, 10.5 point favorites against the Broncos.
Yeah, I'm in line with Alex, really. It's a team that everything sets up. They're in Arrowhead. They're a heavy favorite. It's going to snow. That's one bad thing, but I don't worry about that too much, to be honest. It's more that they've got Spencer Ware is back. He's added into an already crowded. You would think getting rid of the Williams would open it up for someone, whether it's Thompson or McCoy, but it hasn't. So the running back situation is incredibly difficult. Kelce, of course, is a premier tight end, but so is Ertz, so is Kittle, and we have them all available on this slate. And then Tyreek Hill, I think, is always viable. You can go against the grain with him in the sense that he could break any slate. So when you really break it down, without me having a ton of interest in Mahomes, it's not a team that I really want to target, despite what is some clear good weapons. Just the price tag's too much.
Yeah, it's kind of tough. And I guess the one advantage there is like Tyreek Hill right now, last I looked, his ownership is really low. And he has slate breaking upside really any game of the week. Not a particularly easy matchup, but he can blow the top off any defense just given his speed. What was strange to me though, Ben, is you look at Travis Kelce, and he's projected at 10% ownership, basically right below Zach Ertz, who is the only quality player left on his team. A little surprising to me.
That is a little surprising to me too. But like you kind of said, I think Tyreek is the one guy I will try to force him into some lineups because really when I build, I most likely won't get to him. But that's the kind of guy, if I can take 10, 12% or something and get over, that's perfect. Set it and forget it. I'll have outs if he goes nuts. If he crashes and burns, that's fine. He is a scary guy to have 0% of though.
Absolutely. Alex, any priorities for you from the Chiefs?
I don't like any individual player, but I like stacking them up as a group because Mahomes is going pretty low on this week on DraftKings. We have him at 6.9%. Fantasy draft, actually 17.3%. So it really depends on the site, but I have him as about an 8.5% chance of being the top scoring QB or stack. And what I like in this game is there's a really obvious run back option in Cortland Sutton, a guy who in a shootout will probably exceed value. So that is some nice correlation to work with.
Okay. What do you have outside of Cortland Sutton from Denver? Anything, Alex? Are you willing to get to Lindsey in a game where he could be phased out? The problem I have with Lindsey is he's not really involved much in the passing game. You thought he'd be a little bit more involved, but like if they play from behind, I can't rely on him to, do what a guy like Fournette would do playing from behind. I'm not expecting Christian McCaffrey type workload in the passing game, but hell, even a Lesean McCoy type status would be nice if they're playing from behind today at Arrowhead.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Lindsey would fall under the kind of GPP flyer category where it's an unlikely outcome for Denver to be up big in this game. But if they are, then Lindsey could smash.
Ben, Denver?
I don't know. I feel maybe Drew Lock, he's been impressive. I still kind of feel like he might be due for some pain and so I like Kansas City's defense if I can get to them, honestly.
Okay.
So I don't have a ton of interest in the Denver side.
All right. So like if you were stacking Kansas City, would it be Sutton that you run it back with most likely?
Yep, definitely.
All right. Then we'll keep cruising along. We're down 5. We've got what? 8 to go. Big slate today. And then next week, we got Ben. Did you know we have Saturday Night Football, but we have 3 Saturday games?
I knew there was some, because college football, now it's bowl season, and they always do that, but I didn't know exactly the schedule. So that'll be interesting.
How many combined times did Army and Navy throw yesterday?
I think it was 3. Navy only had one pass for 1 yard.
That's absurd.
Yeah, they don't need to throw. And it wasn't their quarterback. It was a receiver. Their quarterback did not throw yesterday.
It was a touchdown too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, a little Philly special for you.
Amazing. I don't. Here's the thing. Just explain this though. I'm sorry, getting off track. But the Army lost by 24 points and still only threw 6 times. How does that happen?
Yeah, they can't fall behind. That's a death sentence that you literally.
My God, that's brutal. Alex, let's talk about the Giants and the Miami Dolphins. Saquon Barkley, here we go again, man. Like we're seeing this a lot this season, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong. What I am saying is it really hasn't paid off. And what I'm getting at is like the Alvin Kamara's too cheap play, the Saquon Barkley's in too good of a spot and he's too cheap play. Even at times like the Zeke Elliott, it just seems like all of these top flight backs coming into the season. Well, at least not all of them, of course, not McCaffrey, but like Barkley and Kamara, and to a lesser extent at times Ezekiel Elliott, but mostly Barkley and Kamara. They're getting really good spots, or their price tag is way down, and they just continue to underwhelm. But it doesn't seem to matter today. Fields getting back to Saquon Barkley, projected for the highest ownership of any, not running back, but any player on DraftKings. Second highest of any player on FanDuel, and that's only because Chris Carson's $900 cheaper. And Barkley, 43% projected ownership on Yahoo today. It's crazy, Alex. Yeah, fantasy draft, by the way, similar to DraftKings, the highest ownership there as well. It's nuts.
Yeah, I mean, the price is nice. I mean, the matchup versus Miami, you gotta be enthusiastic about that. But the biggest factor here for me is Eli Manning replacing Danny Dimes at quarterback, because we saw last year with Eli at the helm, Saquon Barkley was a top producer. And I kind of anticipated with Daniel Jones, he would take a step backwards because of less targets in the passing game. And that happened. Now that we're back to Eli, I'm back to Saquon.
Okay. Last week doesn't concern you at all that he looked equally bad?
No, I mean, they're playing Miami, so you gotta be pretty optimistic the Giants will do a lot better than they have in previous weeks.
God, I hope so. Ben, what about you?
Yeah, this is tough. I mean, it's hard not to like it, but then again, if you look objectively just with the data, Saquon has just been bad. And yes, I agree that Eli helps because Danny Dimes for some reason just doesn't want to check down, it feels like, and he also can run. But Saquon has just been, it looks like every run he's trying to break for an 80-yard touch. He's not taking what's there. The line is not great. He's going to need the targets, but this is a great spot. It's really windy in New York. I do expect maybe shorter, quicker targets for someone like him. He's going to have 20-ish touches each and every week, regardless of game script. So I get it. It's just an opportunity cost when you have someone like Chris Carson, and then you have other top end backs that are not garnering even remotely close to the ownership we're going to see here.
Can Barkley get into the end zone on the ground for the first time since week? You ready for this? 7?
He's going to need to return with that kind of ownership. You need him to find the end zone today. Yeah.
Manny Laird yesterday, we did Sirius XM Fantasy 5 to 7 Saturday, 5 to 7 Eastern, 7 to 9 on Sunday. Check it out. Sirius 210 XM 87. I think you'll enjoy it. But Manny's like, yeah, this guy is not having 1-yard gains through the air. He's having 1-yard games. Like he's had 2 1 receiving yard games and 1 rushing. So I'm serious about this. Over the last 4 weeks, he has 2 games with 1 receiving yard and 1 game with 1 rushing yard, Ben. Look, I'm not trying to buy into the, like, what have you done for me lately? but it's not exactly lately. Like, it's been all season since week 2. I don't know. I'm going to be on Barkley, but it just, I guess what I'm saying, I hate these spots because you have to take a stand one way or the other, and it could kill you. But it really does feel like one of those spots where, like, yes, it's a good matchup, but is this line, and right now is Barkley good enough to exploit it?
Yeah, I mean, he could be just hurt. This is a guy that came back quickly from a high ankle sprain. I don't know. He doesn't look great, but it is Miami at home and in a very nice spot. So I'm going to do my best to not let him define me because I really don't have a strong take here. I'll probably come in close to the field.
Okay. Alex, what are you thinking on the rest of this Giants team today against the Dolphins? They are, for the first time, I think since like week 4 or 5, favored, 3-point favorites at home, 45.5 over under. They have a 24.3 implied total. So nothing to sneeze at.
I think that Slayton is pretty cheap. I think he didn't get the salary bump from Monday night where he had a big game. So I think that he's a good play objectively, but he'll be popular, so I'm not crazy about him. Caden Smith is kind of on my radar, but his price has gone up depending on the site. So I'm not like terribly enthusiastic about any Giants other than Barkley.
Ben, what about you? Anything outside of Barkley you like here?
Not really. I think Golden Tate is somewhat interesting. If I had to go somewhere else, it would probably be him. I don't think I'm going to chase Slayton. I think that was more of an outlier than something going forward. So nothing too exciting on the Giants side.
Okay. What about the Dolphins? Are you getting to good old Patrick Laird here, who is right now projected to be relatively popular, which is pretty remarkable. I don't know if anyone would have told you earlier in the year that Patrick Laird would be legitimately getting ownership. Right now, we've got him at what, 15% on DraftKings. It's insane. Fantasy draft, I think he's a little bit further down, but on FanDuel, Patrick Laird is coming in at where's Patrick Laird? 18, one of the highest owned on FanDuel right now.
I mean, yeah, it's got to be something you have to consider. It's just what you're weighing. He had a lot of work last week, but I do think it's important to point out Devontae Parker and Albert Wilson basically got immediately injured. So they were running. There was nobody left. It was like Allen Hurns and him in the game where they kicked 7 field goals. So there's some things you can use on both sides of the argument there. But Parker and Wilson are back today. Laird has the backfield to himself, no doubt. I'm just not sure how much work he's going to do on the ground. You're looking for him at full point PPR, and obviously he has some catching ability. So I get it. I just don't know how often I'll need to go there.
What about you, Alex? Is Patrick Laird in your plans today?
Yeah, I mean, this is Patrick Laird chalk week. I think he's an excellent play. I mean, I also was on Kalen Balaj a million times, and that didn't work out for me, though. So I think Laird is appealing because if you just go off the workload he's gotten since Kalen Balaj has been out, it's been about a 2-to-1 split over Myles Gaskin. And Laird has been really effective receiving the ball, so that gives him outs if Miami's down big here. And the price is just really low. So I see a lot of positive signs here. And also I'll note that all the sportsbook props are also pretty high on Patrick Laird. So the consensus across the industry is that he's in a pretty good spot this week.
Snap counts over the last 5 weeks, 12%, 23 to 37 to 60 to 82 with Kalen Balaj out of the backfield entirely. Myles Gaskin saw 18%. So it's his backfield right now. It's just a matter of what's he going to do with it. I don't hate him. I don't hate him. I don't feel great saying it, but I don't hate him. He ran 27 routes last week, which is pretty enticing for someone that's going to be on the field a lot. I get it. I do. Wish I didn't, but I do. What are we doing with the rest of Miami? Devontae Parker's cleared to play. Alex, do you have interest here in Parker or anything else from the passing game? Mike Gesicki, Allen Hurns, Albert Wilson, anything you like?
The real good prices have been previous weeks on the Dolphins. Now we have Parker priced up as kind of top tier option. So I think that makes it hard to get to him when the team overall isn't projected to do that well. Same with Jasicki. I think he's better than Ian Thomas, but the price is way higher too. So I'm not really crazy about him.
Okay, Ben, what about you? We'll close this game out.
Yeah, I don't have much. I think I wanted to see what Albert Wilson could do. I had some exposure last week and he got hurt. I don't. There's so many value plays at dirt cheap price tags. I'm not sure I need to force anything in from the Dolphins that I don't want to.
Okay, reasonable enough. Let's keep it moving. Tennessee and Houston, Ben. This game has the highest total on the slate. Divisional showdown here. Right now it's at 51, I think. Let's see. Yeah, 51. It opened at 48.5 too, which is pretty wild. Titans are 3-point favorites with a 27 implied, 24 implied total for Houston. Derrick Henry didn't practice at all this week, but he's going to play. So I don't know. He isn't expected to be limited at all either. I don't know what to make of Derrick Henry. In my seasonal leagues, I'm playing him because he's one of the main reasons that you get into the playoffs with his performance the last 1+ months. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't have some concerns about a guy who didn't practice at all this week coming into a game with a hamstring injury. But maybe that's just me. What are you doing with this Tennessee squad?
It's a difficult spot. This all hands on deck. This is a huge game in the South. Now Tannehill, AJ Brown, they're very impressive last week. I look at this game and it's got such a high over under. I'm not sure exactly what I want to do. I don't think I'm going to get to Derrick Henry much, despite he seems to churn it out each and every week. And he doesn't catch a lot of passes. It's been incredible. He finds the end zone so often. AJ Brown, it feels a little point chasing. We caught a 91-yard touchdown last week. He's been good, but I'm still not super sold on the Titans. I like the Texans in this game, and I think that's kind of making me a little underwhelmed with the home team here. So I really don't have much, despite what is maybe the best game environment on the entire slate.
Okay. Interesting. What about you, Alex? Share the same thoughts as Ben, or are you getting a different read on this one?
I think this is a great game for DFS. Derrick Henry, I agree that he's just putting up kind of crazy numbers, and that's not something I would project on a week-to-week basis because it relies on the team like having such outlier performances. They are projected for 27 points today, which seems a little off to me, but Tannehill has been fantastic. I think Tannehill is a little bit too popular this week, so I'm not really on him, but I think Watson is the guy I'm interested in. He's got 2 targets in Hopkins and Fuller that are really high volume, so that makes them easy to stack. And because they're the dogs in this game, they should have to throw the ball a little bit more on average to get it done.
Okay. So top options from this game in its entirety for you, Ben, if you're getting here, is it Hopkins?
It is. I like the Texan side of the game. I'm more concerned on the Titan side. Yeah, I don't mind Deshaun. It was garbage time last week. They will be better, clearly. He's just so dynamic. Him to Hopkins, I think, is maybe the best pairing you can have this week.
Ben, does Houston come out and shit on the Titans after last week's atrocious performance in front of a home crowd?
I think that they play quite well. Plus 135 in the betting market, 3-point dog. I like both spots.
So you're taking the win out right here?
I think they win the game, yes.
Okay. I think so too. I do. I think Deshaun Watson's way too good. And this team is better than the Titans. You got to give props to Tannehill though. Like, he's having an awesome season.
The Titans in general are getting it done.
They really are. It's pretty incredible. Alex, same question to you. I'll answer as a 2-parter. Do you have any priorities here? And either yes or no, who were your top options from this game on either side?
I think that one guy I didn't mention that I'm interested in is Corey Davis. He's just cheap, while AJ Brown is kind of seen his price skyrocket. So take some shots on Davis. Hasn't really had any big games this year, but there's so much variance at wide receiver. I'm willing to take a shot there.
Okay.
But Fuller's my top option, then Hopkins, and the stack I really like as well.
Okay, cool. Not a game stack. Like, are you running it back?
I don't always run it back in this instance because Henry is so expensive. I don't think you need to necessarily. I like running it back with maybe Corey Davis or Jonnu Smith, who are a little bit cheaper, and maybe they see more targets in a shootout.
All right. Sounds good to me. Keep it rolling here. Ben, Philly, Washington. Oh man. All right. Lot to break down here for sure. I refuse to use the word unpack. It's like the most overused word. And a lot to unpack here. Real problematic. Those two words drives me nuts. Turn on any news channel and you'll hear every single pundit rattle that off like it's something original. All right. I'm done. Philadelphia, I'm telling you, man, pisses me off.
Can I just respond to that real quick, man?
Yes.
Dude, this is like emo, man. You gotta talk about your feelings and unpack them.
I guess you're right. I refuse. Philly, and I need to go listen to some Taking Back Sunday. Philadelphia and Washington. We've got the Eagles. This is what's wild about this game. The Philadelphia Eagles are 6.5 point favorites, opened at 4.5. They're 6.5 point favorites, Ben, but they only have a 22.8 total, which just goes to show you, number one, that they are depleted, hemorrhaging personnel. 16.3 implied total for the Washington Redskins. This game has a 39-point implied total. It's the lowest on the entire slate, second lowest on the week. I'm honestly a bit surprised that Ertz isn't getting more ownership at $6,000 on DraftKings. To me, that seems, at least I assumed that he would be more popular than that. 12% on FanDuel at 6,700, and our sponsor Fantasy Draft has got him priced at 11.3, where he's 12% as well. It's just, let me put it to you this way, and then I'll turn it over to you. This is what was a little bit surprising to me. When you look at guys like Kittle, he's like 10.5% right now. Kelce, pretty similar. Ertz, not much higher. The difference that I see, they're all really good, and Kittle is a great yards after reception guy. But if there's one guy where you say, yeah, he could legitimately see 15 to 17 targets today, Ertz on a team that is running out J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, Greg Ward, and a practice squad dude as their receivers today, seems like the volume could be outrageously high.
Oh yeah. I mean, Aguilar is now out, which I don't think is a surprise, but he's officially out. And we saw against the Giants, they just don't have anyone left. So it's hard to imagine. I think in cash, Ertz is a pretty obvious play. But my question really is, and I guess it's your account, Laffy. Greg Ward, people are going to see the targets and see the price tag, and they're going to go to him. And I get it. Do you think Arcega-Whiteside, if he would have played that whole game against the Giants, do you think that would have mattered in terms of what we see with Ward? Are both of them viable? And then how many is enough without Wentz? That's the other thing I'm struggling with.
Yeah, it's tough. Like with Arcega-Whiteside, he ran 51 routes last week, 47 routes for Greg Ward. Greg Ward actually did have opportunities in the red zone too, which is surprising to most. But I believe he had one that went off his fingertips in the red zone. He had 2 red zone targets in that game, though, which is interesting to me. I think Ward is your safer option if you wanted to run out a dirt cheap guy and hope to get like 10 or 12 fantasy points. But Arcega-Whiteside is definitely the type of option where if some deep shots or a couple more red zone opportunities come into play, he's that guy. But there's no doubt that it's concerning that he played 90% of snaps, I think it was. He played 90% of snaps and had 3 targets. Like, that's not great.
No, it's not. So this is a game, despite it not being a great environment, you have some options in terms of, the cheapies. You have Ertz. I think Miles Sanders is interesting. He's going to be involved. He didn't have a big game against the Giants. I think it's a little against the grain, but if you're looking to get weird exposure to the Eagles, that's probably what I would do.
Okay. Alex, saw a huge game from Boston Scott last time out. Did you see the guy that won the showdown, won solo first place and solo second place with, I think, captain spot Darius Slayton and then Boston Scott. Just crazy.
Yeah, that was amazing. It just shows that if you have a little tidbit that no one else has, maybe that Boston Scott is going to play in the backup role, like that's huge for Showdown at least. And he hadn't really played the previous games before that, so that was fascinating. I see Boston Scott is actually getting ownership this week. I think that is just completely off
Ridiculous.
the table to me. Yeah, he is 3K on DraftKings, so it's maybe you just get some really interesting builds with him. But I'm thinking that Miles Sanders, the previous 2 weeks before that, was really the only guy getting any action. So I'm going to take some shots on Sanders, hoping that last week was just kind of an anomaly.
Okay, so if you're looking at this team and you've got a dirt cheap Greg Ward, Alex, you have dirt cheap JJ Arcega-Whiteside. By the way, it's not a lisp. It's actually pronounced Arthega. So I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that accidentally. I promise. You got Ertz. Well, forget about Ertz. I'll throw Goddard into the mix with Ward and with Arcega-Whiteside. Like if you had to go with one of the cheap guys on this team because they are so depleted, I'll throw Boston Scott in at minimum salary too. Who would it be?
Greg Ward. So JJ Arthega Whiteside. He has only been targeted 18 times on 232 routes.
It's crazy.
That's he's just not getting any separation, is what I'm taking from that number. Greg Ward has been targeted more times on less than half as many routes, 19 on 94. So if you do the math, you're going to get Greg Ward getting way more reception or targets than Arcega-Whiteside. The efficiency has been horrible, but it's PPR, so you don't necessarily need that at 3K to win. So I think he's in that group of really cheap wideouts this week that should be in the mix.
Okay, and where are you at on Ertz and Miles Sanders being the two, recognizable options on this offense today?
I think Ertz is fine, but he's not really standing out. Philadelphia's passing offense as a whole has been pretty bad this year. Only 6.5 yards per attempt for Wentz. Or I think it might have even been less than that. But that's leading me to think that some of these higher price guys like Ertz and to a lesser extent Goddard are a little bit overpriced.
Okay. Ben, same question to you. Just kind of sum up where we're at on this offense because there's a lot of moving pieces.
So yeah, I think Ertz is a guy that I'm gonna roll with just because I think the volume will justify it. And then even though I don't feel great about a guy like Ward, when you can plug in someone who might see basically all the time out there on an offense, it opens up so much value. So I am going to do that in spots where I jam, other premier stacks. Like if I roll a heavy Texan stack, it's really expensive to go like Watkins. That's not even a person. Watson, Hopkins, Fuller. I can save a lot of money there. Now, if I'm rolling like a Lions stack and it's super cheap, I don't know if I need Greg Ward with them. So it's case by case and lineup by lineup.
Okay. What about the other side? Washington, obviously not a lot to talk about, but any interest in anyone here against the Philadelphia secondary that's just been gashed week in and week out? Like, can you see yourself getting the Terry McLaurin, or is it a stay away spot? It's pretty funny when you look at this team last week with everyone injured, like Richardson and Quinn out. Terry McLaurin played 94% of the offensive snaps. Kelvin Harmon played 85%. And then no other receiver saw more than 4 snaps. So it was like 2 receiver sets the entire game. And I don't know, maybe it was, I wonder if Chris Thompson was lined up as a receiver. Maybe he was, but like they've got nothing right now. And they lost Darius Geis for the season too.
Yeah, I think McLaurin is the obvious guy I would run back if you're stacking the Eagles. AP is going to get a lot of work. It's just not a good matchup.
I think Thompson's interesting just based on like if they can get nothing going on the ground with Peterson, which is probably the likely result.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, he's basically a receiver, so losing Geis hurts. I don't, it's not an offense, of course, I feel too good with, but McLaurin if I had to.
Okay. Alex, anything for the Redskins?
Nah, I think that Steven Sims is someone that's popping out who played all the snaps last week, but he's been pretty bad so far. So him and Harmon really aren't jumping out to me.
Did he play all the snaps? I guess what I'm looking at has that listed wrong. That would make more sense because it has him at 0%. So
yeah, that's weird. It must be like a naming problem because he's like junior in some places or whatever. But PFF has him at 34 of 34.
Yep. No, you're
passing
right.
yards last week.
You're right because he had 7 targets. Yeah, I have trouble paying attention to the Redskins, but
I mean, it's hard to pay attention because no one ever ends up in the winning lineup aside from Geis, just like a fluke play.
Yeah, no, yeah, it says the one I'm looking at is 0%, so that's just wrong. That makes a lot more sense. I had no idea why only 2 receivers were getting any opportunities, but all right, sounds good. Let's keep it moving then. Arizona and Cleveland. Alex, this game has a higher total than I thought. Maybe you can shed some light on. I was surprised to see the 49-point over under here. It's the tied for the second highest on the slate. Cleveland 3-point favorites with a 26-point implied total, 23 points for Arizona. The total on this game opened at 46.5. It's up to 49. So what are you thinking here? I don't know, man. It's a tough one for me. It's really hard for me to like a game stack because there's just not a ton.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand why the total is so high because Arizona plays at a fast pace and their defense is bad. So you got to project Cleveland to be really efficient today. The problem I'm having, like getting to the game stack here, first of all, Kyler Murray is inexplicably high owned in my opinion. Maybe it's just like he's really cheap individually, but like the options to pair him with are not very appealing in my opinion. So I think based on my top stacks tool, I have Arizona at 9% ownership for a quarterback and 2.6% chance of being the top stack. So that's really my fade of the week. Cleveland also not really popping out very much because they do have a lot of effectiveness on the ground with Kareem Hunt. With Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, I think that that makes it a little bit hard to love the passing attack.
Okay, Ben, what about you?
Yeah, it's not a game that I'm super drawn to. I've seen the same thing in terms of ownership with Kyler, and I kind of think it's unwarranted as well. It's someone who's, I don't know why he hasn't run more. I mean, him to Kirk is a decent connection, but the Browns secondary is not bad. And then on Cleveland side, they've really, if in terms of their team, I think it's a great thing to have Kareem Hunt available for them, but it's killed Chubb's value. Beckham, we know, has been a struggle all year. Landry kind of priced up, and once you do that, that's really all the main weapons. So I wouldn't fault anyone for picking any of these guys if you have a line on it, but honestly, I feel pretty comfortable kind of just glancing by with 13 games and seeing what I can get away with here.
Yeah, Arizona's pace of play has come down, but it's still top 3 in the league. So I guess that makes sense. But I don't know. I'm not really huge on anything here. Like with Murray, Ben, the problem for me is if you're going to stack Murray, like you don't really have many options. It's Kirk and Fitzgerald, unless you want to take shots on what, Pharaoh Cooper. Like,
no, don't do that.
What's that?
Don't play Pharaoh Cooper.
Right. That's what I mean. But Demir Bird. What I'm saying is there's nothing else here. And now, even if you wanted to throw a running back into it, it's like, what are you going to do? Kenyon Drake, David Johnson, and Chase Edmonds were back in the mix last week. I don't know. It's wholly unappealing to me.
Yeah, like I said, it's a game where every play that I could make, there are 2 or 3 guys that I like better in other games. Like I'm not going to pay the premium for Chubb with Kareem Hunt. You look at the receivers in Landry and Odell. To me, I'd rather bump down for savings or go up to the guys we've talked about, the Godwins, the Hopkins of the world. or some other guys, we'll get to Julio in a second. So that's really where I'm at on this game.
Alex, do you want to hit on anything else?
No, I feel like honestly, I'm surprised I'm not getting too much Cleveland because it seems like the spots should be prime, but there are a lot of good spots on the slate, so it's not a priority for me.
Yeah, for sure. I thought I would too. Would this be a spot, Alex, where you might want to like force something in because, well, like what's the ownership right now? Do we have the top stack tool updated?
Yeah. So the Cleveland Baker is 3.7% and Kyler is 9%.
9%. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to stand out like as like the best quarterback for cash, and because so many people run cash kind of builds and GPPs, I think we'll see a lot of Kyler.
Okay. Yeah, ownership though on Mayfield is pretty low, and it's definitely not high. It's below 4%.
Yeah, it's weird that Kyler is so much higher owned than Baker because, like I looked at the prop just now for Kyler Murray passing yards. It's like 230, so one of the lowest on the slate.
Wow. Okay. It's surprising to me too. And
me too.
I
get it for cash. Sorry, Lafayette. We had a question on that in chat about it. I get it for cash. I'm going to probably try to pay up in cash for quarterback though.
Yeah. And it's just, again, though, when you're talking about like stacking them, there's only so many places you can go. Like, other than Kirk and Fitzgerald, is there even then, like, there's not even a sneaky third option for Arizona where you're like, oh, no one's there. There's nobody.
No, especially, I mean, I know we're not talking cash mostly, but in cash, that's the opposite of what you're trying to do is find a sneaky third option
exactly.
for anybody. Don't do that.
No, absolutely not. Sticking with you, Ben. Now, here's a game that I'm having trouble with because like I think it could be a massive shootout between two bad teams, which is always terrifying. Kind of like what you said about Tampa Bay and Detroit. You know what I mean? It could be an incredible game with zero defense, or both offenses just stall out and are terrible. That's Jacksonville and Oakland. This is our second 4 p.m. game on the slate. I think we have a bunch of them this week. But you've got in Oakland a 47-point over under. The Oakland Raiders are 6.5-point favorites here. Now, here's the thing. They've fallen apart recently. They have fallen apart. So have the Jaguars. Even more to a greater extent have they fallen apart. Now, I don't want to throw a narrative into the mix, but I believe this is the Raiders' last home game.
It is.
In Oakland ever. Have fun losing with those losers in Las Vegas, LaFleur. What's that from?
Dodgeball.
Oh, okay. So you do watch movies. Okay.
I watch a ton of movies.
One of the most underrated comedies, gotta say.
Great movie.
Anyway, last home game, 6.5 points though. Like that's a lot, man. I like the problem is though, I like Jacksonville. DJ Shark out. I think you're getting big time you have like Dede Westbrook's cheap, Conley. I know it's gross, but this is a guy who's actually getting opportunities. Leonard Fournette continues to get a ton of work. On the other side, though, if you're stacking Oakland, you have kind of a similar scenario to Arizona. You have Tyrell Williams, you have Darren Waller, and that's it. And we're waiting on Josh Jacobs news. So I feel like this game should shoot out. Where do we go with it, though, if you do?
Yeah, this is an interesting game. Now, the Jaguars, to me, are in a whole different stratosphere of quit. 5 straight games lost by 17 or more. They've been blown out 5 straight games. They lost by 35 last week.
Bad.
They have no life. Their front is the worst in the league right now. Josh Jacobs, to me, is actually interesting because if he didn't have a Q tag, he would be maybe the most popular guy on the slate going against this front.
Yeah, good point.
You've got Shark is out. So does that mean, and this is kind of a question and a statement, someone like Chris Conley is going to be really cheap? I don't know if he's getting the same interest as the Eagles guys, and I'm not sure why that is. Because I do like him or DD. Fournette is an ultimate sandwich spot. He is between Saquon and Carson in the pricing on DraftKings. not a lot of people are going to go there, and we know he's always involved. But at the same time, Jacksonville has been as inept as I've seen a team. I think they're clearly the worst team in the league right now.
Amazing. That's a bold statement, but I don't disagree with it. They've been that bad. I mean, listen, when Phillip Rivers can complete the deep ball against you, that's when you know things have fallen apart.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
I think Keelan Cole probably gets some opportunities. Chris Conley should. And then D.D. Westbrook. I want to get over to Alex, but I also want to make sure I'm getting where you're at here first, Ben. And then the same from you, Alex. Like, where is your interest coming from on this game? Is there anyone you really like? Do you like it as a stack? Are you getting away from it? These are two bad teams right now.
They are, and that to me is interesting. I like the Jaguars receivers specifically because I think they are very, very cheap. I'm not sure I'm going to get to Gardner Minshew. If I do, I will use Fournette as well. Then on the other side, Waller's behind all the premier tight ends for me. We'll have to see what the status of Josh Jacobs is, because I will use him if he is playing in some spots.
All right, Alex, take all the time you need to break this one down.
So I think this one is my favorite budget stack with Gardner Minshew. You mentioned Chris Conley, who should see more targets with Shark out, and he's been really, really good as far as yards per catch, over 16 this season. More than 8 yards per target. So if he gets the targets, that's very promising. Then we have D.D. Westbrook and Keelan Cole, who both are good values as well. So this makes Gardner Minshew really appealing as far as the points per dollar play. And I think I'm on it because Gardner Minshew is only projected for 4% ownership right now. So it's a spot where if you go to my top stacks tool, you're going to see Jacksonville has about a 3% chance of being the top stack. I'm mentioning this because it's free today, so you can easily log on the site and access it. 4% ownership, so that's not a great sign, but you're going to have a much stronger lineup around Minshew.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of Gardner Minshew, and it's terrifying. Might have to make some adjustments. Have you crunched lineups yet, Alex?
I did. I got a lot of him too, but he's not a guy that he's going to stand out a lot as far as like optimal lineups, especially if you're setting if you're trying to stack up two guys from the same team as the quarterback. So I am going to kind of restrict it a little bit and probably have him a good amount, but not an overwhelming amount.
Yeah, exactly. I've already made some adjustments, so Gardner Minshew is not my highest owned quarterback. Let's keep it moving. But would you agree, though, Alex, that because these teams are so terrible and because there's a lot of discounts here, this could be, I mean, there's the chance that this game shoots out. It's also possible that both teams are just so inferior in both phases of the game that nobody can score either. But I tend to lean towards the defenses being, the kings of ineptitude today, where the offenses can still move the ball.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good sign for the game shooting out, is both defenses can't really get it done. Jacksonville is bad in both phases. Oakland's particularly bad in the passing phase and defense. So that's an encouraging sign for both teams. Darren Waller would be my favorite option on Oakland because he's just at a position with a lot of kind of lower tier guys, and his price is a little bit lower than Ertz and Kelce. So I think that he makes a really nice option in a spot where Oakland should be able to put up a lot of points here.
Okay, Ben, is there anybody else like on Oakland? There's Jacobs. I'm with you if he plays. We're there. If not, DeAndre Washington's, I don't know what, the best value play of the entire week.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Tyrell Williams. And then there's Darren Waller. But outside of that, like if you're stacking Derek Carr in a bunch of lineups and you're trying to get somewhat different, that forces you on to the likes of Zay Jones or Keelan Doss. Like, what do you do here?
I don't think you do that.
I don't think you can. Yeah.
I think it's important as more and more people get sharp, and it's really great that more and more people are realizing that you really like to stack up but you don't have to say like, all right, I need to run it back. I need a 3 and a 1. Like, it has to make sense. Don't just like force a second Raider in if you don't like the build. You think there's a shot, then go for it. But with so many cheap guys, the Greg Wards of the world, the Conleys of the world, I don't know how often I would do something like that on this slate.
Yeah, I do think a Derek Carr, Tyrell Williams, Darren Waller stack could come through against this Jacksonville team.
Oh yeah, but those are not, those aren't to me forces. That's just
no
stack.
Right, trying to get cute with Keelan Doss or Zay Jones. You know what? Maybe one of them has a 60-yard touchdown. That's more luck than anything else, is what you're saying.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's just an unnecessary risk. And yes, as Chet points out, I expect, like most, Jacobs looks like he is playing, but we have to see if he's going to just be, full workload, a shoulder. I don't know exactly what they give him.
Yeah, that's a little concerning. And we saw, player speak doesn't always tell you what you need to know about this. A lot of times players are insistent that they're going to play. But you know what? Rappaport mentioned that he's going to play, and pretty much everyone is saying the same thing. So it's more than just him earlier in the week saying he's going to play. It looks like he's actually going to play. Unfortunately, it's a 4 p.m. game. So let's talk LA Chargers and Minnesota. Alex, we got 3 games to go here. And then, as we always do, we'll turn it over to the Inactives crew, going to give you all of the news you need to know with breaking news. Inactives breaking, shortly around 11:30. And they'll give you the fantasy implications there. That is Nolan Kelly and Sam Smith. They'll bring you up to 12 p.m. Eastern with Josh Engelman and Chris Spags with Live Before Lock. That's the home stretch. They'll bring you to kickoff at 1 p.m. Chargers and Minnesota Vikings. Alex, this game feels like it has some sneaky potential too. Now, the Chargers, they didn't – the battle between the two teams that had nothing to play for last week, between the Chargers and the Jags, the Chargers actually went out there and played football and lit it up with 45 points. The Jags wanted nothing to do with the football field or football. Now the Chargers are at home against Minnesota. I'm not worried about them not playing. And I guess the weird spot about this game is the Minnesota Vikings pass defense has not been nearly as good as you would have expected it to be this year. Like, for example, Xavier Rhodes has been inferior, really. Pro Football Focus has him with a 46.3 defensive grade. That's one of the worst in the league this season. Like, are you interested in anything from the Chargers side before we get to Minnesota? They're 1-point dogs at home with a 22-point implied total, 23 for the Vikings.
I am, yeah. I'm having trouble kind of finding reasons not to go to some of these Charger players. Hunter Henry is someone that's really standing out to me as kind of being undervalued in the industry. He's averaged 60 yards per game. That's about what I have him at. And Rivers has been pretty good this year, over 8 yards per attempt. As you mentioned, Minnesota not the most formidable pass defense, just around average in the league. So I think I see some potential here. I kind of like it. Okay.
So who would you say is the option that you like the most here?
I like, as far as price, I think Keenan Allen stands out a ton. And then Austin Eckler and Hunter Henry are a little bit more expensive than I would like. But that's a gift and a curse because it means they're going to be a lot less owned than they would be otherwise.
Okay, Ben, talk to me about this game.
Good game. Yeah, I mean, Minnesota's much better at home. Not that the Chargers have any home field, but this is, I guess, a road game in theory. Keenan Allen, definitely appealing. As Alex mentioned, Hunter Henry, he's not going to be nearly, it's all about opportunity costs. Like, I do have a lot of double tight end teams this week, but even doing that, there's so many guys above him in top spots. It may temper his ownership somewhat. Then you have the 2 running backs, which are a little difficult. I'm not overly high on the game, but I have no problem taking one of the mid-range Chargers in lineups.
Okay. Yeah, I think Keenan Allen is at least interesting. That price point is absurd on him. And, while he's only had 6 targets in each of his last 2 games, he is the type of player that can come out here and have a 15 target performance. I have no issues with Keenan Allen at all. To me, he's just a little bit too cheap. Gonna get, I think, a lot of his routes coming against Mackenzie Alexander, who's been okay. I like Keenan Allen here just because his price is too cheap to ignore. Ben, what about the Minnesota side? Might not seem like a big deal, but Alexander Madison's out, and it seemed like Zimmer was more than willing to give him opportunities to kind of limit Dalvin Cook, who's nursing the shoulder. Was it a shoulder injury? Chest injury. Nursing that chest injury. Like last week, Madison saw double-digit carries. Won't be the case this week, and I'd be hard-pressed to assume that they have faith in Amir Abdullah or Mike Boone, really, or CJ Ham. I don't even know who's on the roster anymore, honestly, but I would think that Dalvin Cook would be poised for a big-time workload today against the Chargers.
It would make sense. And he's got a lot of things going for him, mostly that everyone is, me included, talking about Carson, Saquon, and then everyone knows about getting up to McCaffrey. So I don't know how many people are going to have a lot of money at running back and think to go to Dalvin Cook. I do worry just a little bit how he stacks up against those guys, but I'll probably let ownership just dictate my decisions there. I mean, he finds the end zone. It's seemingly every week. The guy's fantastic. It's just about, do you want to spend that money when you can go get McCaffrey, or save money and go get guys like Saquon or Carson?
There was a super chat from someone. I think it was Laz Taylor.
It was about Godwin.
So how much next day? Point that. I missed it, and someone told me next time point that out so we can make sure we get there. What was it? 20. He gave us $20 super chat, and it disappeared on the chat, so I can't find it anywhere. But thanks a lot, man. What was his question, Ben? He had a question, right?
It was about Godwin maybe facing off against, I think it was Darius Slay. I actually had to close. I don't know, my computer also being weird with chat, but that's neither here nor there. It was about Godwin. Do we worry, with Mike Evans being out? What do we think about that? I think you can still go there, especially if you play Jameis. But I do think there's a concern at the same time, and you can pay down with the cheaper bucks if you want to.
Okay. And thanks again, brother. We appreciate
We
appreciate all the support and the donations from Super Chat from all of you guys. If we happen to miss one, for some reason the chat's acting up and the stream was weird, so I closed out of YouTube for a moment. But if we happen to miss it, we definitely appreciate it, and I can assure you it does not go unnoticed. Anything else from this game, Alex? Do you want to hit on Minnesota at all? Adam Thielen expected to return here after a lengthy hiatus, and now they're starting to get healthy.
Yeah, I'm more fade Thielen. It's hard in the NFL after multiple weeks to assume someone goes back to full workload. Dalvin Cook is pretty interesting for the reasons you guys mentioned. The game itself isn't super appealing, but Alexander Madison being out is a significant factor. And he doesn't stand out quite like Christian McCaffrey because he doesn't get as many targets, but excellent player.
Mike Verderosa, is Josh Perkins on the Eagles basically the third receiver listed wrong as a tight end? No, they just use a ton of 2 tight end sets because they don't have any good receivers.
And they ran out of receivers too last week. Like literally, they were, when Arcega Whiteside was out, they literally just had Ward as the active receiver, so they had to throw him, that Perkins guy, out there.
Yeah, Josh McCown said he was ready to come in as a receiver. It's crazy. He's the backup quarterback, by the way.
Correct.
Anything else from this one, Ben? Minnesota or the LA Chargers?
No, nothing else from me.
Alex, anything else you want to hit on?
I'll mention one thing. Usually when you see a team favored, you expect them to get more of the plays in the game. But the Chargers actually run longer drives than Minnesota significantly. So I'm expecting the Chargers to maybe be a little bit sneaky because people aren't expecting them to get as many plays as they will, and that just equals more yardage.
Okay. So, 2 games. Dallas, Rams. Ben, I really like this game, and it might end up killing me. I mean, I don't even know at this point. I'm pretty sure it's going to be relatively popular, but it's crucial game for the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott is to me appealing because Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup are just underpriced. Todd Gurley is really underpriced as well, in my opinion, at least. And it just feels like the type of game that can shoot out. If you look at pace stats on Football Outsiders, not the Cardinals, but the Cowboys are playing at the fastest pace this year, 25.29 seconds per play. And then the Rams with the fourth fastest pace. There's going to be a lot of plays run in this game. And to me, the price tags are just really appealing on both sides.
Oh, I agree. I mean, it's a game where I like the game on paper, and then you look at the pricing. You have Zeke, who's expensive, and I get that. Then you've got Cooper Kupp, Amari Cooper, Robert Woods, Gurley, Gallup, Dak, all these guys. I'd all classify them as, that like upper mid range. You can load up on this game.
It's crazy.
I think people will do that. For me, in terms of prioritization, I think Gurley, if they're going to give him the work that he's been seeing, I got to go with him. I don't mind Dak as a quarterback. And then, one of those Dallas receivers, whether it's Cooper or Gallup, probably where I'm going. I don't know what to do with Zeke. Probably going to fall by the wayside, most likely.
Okay. Fair enough. How about you, Alex? Do you have interest in this game with second highest total, 2 of the 4 fastest paced teams in the league going up against each other in Dallas, where we have a 1-point spread, by the way. So not only is this game expected to see scoring significant on both sides, but it is also a 1-point spread right now. Cowboys 1-point favorites at home.
Yeah, I have a lot of interest in this game. The Rams is a little bit tougher to pin down because Cooper Kupp is the big question mark. He hasn't seen as much work the past couple of weeks because they feel like Josh Reynolds is a better pass blocker. But I try not to put too much stock into a couple of weeks and kind of look at the season as a whole. But still, he's still priced as high as he was before. So not a great guy to stack up, but kind of a GPP option. Higbee has been pretty amazing with Everett out. His price has gone up a little bit, so not quite as appealing, but that's a great option. Woods also fantastic option. So there's a lot of guys to like in this game, so it's pretty appealing.
Okay. Who would you say your top options are? You can combine it from either side. If you're stacking Dak, what are you doing here? If you're stacking the Rams and Jared Goff, where are you going?
Man, I was hoping you wouldn't ask me about the Dallas stack because I don't want to drive the ownership up, but I love the stack.
Me too.
Yeah, Dak has been really efficient this year, and he throws the ball a ton, or at least projecting that in this game because it's supposed to be pretty competitive. So one thing I noticed about this game that I gotta mention is that the Rams and Cowboys are the second let me pull up this real quick. Dallas is the second fastest team in the league. The Rams are the 4th fastest team in the league as far as pace of play. So if you put stock into those numbers, then there's going to be a lot more plays in this game than average. And that's just more yards, more touchdowns. And Cooper and Gallup are both fantastic players, so I'm not going to hesitate to use them.
All right. Ben, same question to you.
Yeah, I think that, for me, Gurley certainly in play. And then on the Dallas side, using Dak with guys like Cooper who are just underpriced, I can easily justify it. I feel good. I will say we got another super chat, which is much appreciated, from Eric Johnston. Going back real quick, just a real simple question. Best pay down Eagles wide receiver. For me, it's Greg Ward.
Yeah, it is.
Yep.
It is. Like if Ward was targeted 10 times today, it wouldn't be a huge shock.
Correct. Yeah. I think it's just, that is the simple answer. If you're looking for the cheap Eagles guy.
All right. Yeah. This is just a spot where I'll have trouble getting away from. Are you loading up on Brandon Cooks, Ben?
Not in this lifetime. No. He's lucky the season's ending because he would be possibly 3K if this was like a 25-week season at the way he's going with this price.
That's really funny you'd say that because that's not even hyperbole.
No,
it's not an exaggeration. It's been that bad. All right, let's close it out, fellas. This is some good timing, man. We're getting good at this over the past couple of months, right? We're closing it out at 11:25. It's 11:19 right now. Come on, Alex. San Francisco, Atlanta. Right now the Falcons are 11.5-point dogs, 19-point total, 30.3 total for the Niners. 49-point over under is the second highest on the slate, tied with like 4 other games, but it's still up there. I'm quite enticed by a fellow that goes by the name of Raheem Mostert. And I was surprised his ownership was going to be as high as it is. It's still single digits. I thought it'd be a little bit lower, but he has clearly wrestled away the bulk of opportunities in this backfield away from Tevin Coleman, to the point where last week he played 60 snaps to Coleman's, or 60% of snaps to Coleman's 16. Matt Breida was used very sparingly himself. What are you doing with San Francisco offense today, Alex?
I don't love the San Francisco offense. The running backs are always tough to predict because there's 3 of them that they love using. Mostert's been the guy the past 2 weeks, but I don't have much confidence that will be the case every week going forward. More likely what we'll see is that Coleman and Breida will get a few drives, and based on who's playing the best that day, they'll get the majority of the work or more than you would expect. And then the passing game, San Francisco runs the ball as much as anyone. So that makes it hard to love Garoppolo and the options, but I think he will be pretty effective when he does throw, and Kittle stands out because of the position and being the number 1 target.
Corey Randall, $5 super chat. Thanks, man. He says, I understand what you're all saying about Dallas, but the Rams D has been stepping it up lately. Might be a sneaky defense. Anything's possible, but it's also very possible that the Rams defense comes up big early, and Dak, like we've seen in the past several weeks where they lose, still goes out there and throws for 300+ yards playing from behind. Coach S with another one. Thanks, man. We appreciate you. You hit us up big the other day. He says, Alex, if I run into, I'm assuming you, I got you a gift from Ohio, and here is $14. Play Dalton, all caps. Oh, play Dalton. All right.
If coach says I need to play Dalton, I'm playing Dalton.
Playing Dalton. Justin, yes, Aguilar's out. Ben, what are you doing here for San Francisco?
They, man, that was a crazy game last week, but did they get hurt? Mostly on the defensive side. So I'm interested to see how they play here. For me, it's Kittle. I'm not really messing around with too much else. I have no interest in Garoppolo. Guess you could look to the running backs. It's just so hard to peg production. So I like Kittle in the spot. I'm indifferent to guys like Deebo Samuel and Sanders and whatnot, but I wouldn't be stunned to see the Falcons keep this very close.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's more because the 5 starters on the Niners defense are not playing today. That's a significant factor.
It's huge, and I'm glad you brought that up because it hasn't been talked about that much. How does that affect who you're targeting then? Knowing that, by the way, Ben, not only are they injured, but Calvin Ridley also hit the IR, so they're down their number 2 receiver in Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean Julio. It's hard to imagine he doesn't see a Ertz-size workload here. Even though I do like Atlanta to play this game competitively, they are major dogs. They should be throwing. And I mean, Julio stands alone in terms of their big target options with Gage and Freeman and these other dudes. So I don't mind him. If for some reason you're stacking, I think Hooper, something like that if you wanted to. But I'm not getting that deep with Matt Ryan today.
Okay. Alex, what are we thinking on the Atlanta side of the ball as we close out today's Week 15 show?
I like Atlanta. I like this point you're making about the defense. I feel like betting markets, especially the sub markets like passing yards and stuff, probably aren't really incorporating that. So if you're looking at those, be a little bit careful. I think that Ridley being out should hurt the offense, but that makes Julio and Hooper a tad bit better. And Matt Ryan throws the ball as much as anyone, so that leads to a ton of variance in a game where they should be trailing. I think that he could easily win a GPP as long as they find the end zone a couple times.
All right, Alex, your top stack for today. It can be your top contrarian stack, whatever you want. Who is it? Thanks for the super chat, Legalized. We appreciate you, man.
I think Houston. The matchup versus Tennessee is unusual in the fact that they're pretty big dogs and they're probably gonna have to throw a lot. Watson's been efficient, 8 yards per attempt, and they have 2 really good receivers in Hopkins and Floor. So all in all, a really appealing game.
All right, Ben, top stack, and to answer Legalized question, Kupp and Debo Samuel or Godwin and DD Westbrook on DraftKings, single entry.
I'd go Godwin and DD. For me, top stack, it's definitely a contrarian, so keep that in mind. But I'm stacking up the Lions in a lot of spots.
Oh, I love it.
I'm going for it.
All right, I'm gonna go Cowboys.
Yeah.
It is possible that they just don't have a good game, but the thing that I like about this Cowboys team is they haven't had good games in consecutive weeks, and Dak Prescott still went for 330 plus yards in both of them. That's comforting. That's good to know. Anyway, that'll do it for us. And if you guys enjoy the show, you want to help support us, you don't have to do it with super chat. We appreciate you guys the most, of course, and all of our premium subs. But you can help us out just by hitting that thumbs up button. It allows us to keep putting out free content here at YouTube and doing what we all love. So we appreciate you. All the thumbs up are also appreciated. And subscribe, hit the notification bell as well, so you always know when new content's going to drop next. David Hanna, I see that, and I appreciate you, brother. Stick around. The Inactives report coming up next. Nolan and Sam, they'll take you into Live Before Lock with Josh Engelman and Chris Spags. This is the Deeper Dive presented by FantasyDraft.com. See you back here next week, Week 16.
Is happening, everybody? It is an hour and a half before lock. It's week 15. There's only 3 weeks of football left. I'm Nolan Kelly, joined as always. Are we as always now? It's like
it's as always.
By Sam Smith. Sam writes 2 columns for us here at Osmo.com, the wide receiver cornerbacks matchup, and of course the From the Trenches article, which is premium and tells you who has the best offensive line, defensive line matchups. Really good at read every single week. Tells me maybe which running backs are going undervalued, overvalued. Dives into some offensive line play that is probably overlooked a lot in a lot of fantasy circles. So great stuff. Shout out to Yahoo for sponsoring this show. If you have not gone over to Yahoo, you absolutely should. They have lower management fees. They have every week they have a free no management fee contest for NFL. They have all kinds of good stuff going on there. And of course, the competition's a little less sharp because all the pros aren't over there. They have CSV uploads right now. And I'm just checking and making sure there's still spots left in the 170K baller this week. $175,000 in prizes, $15,000 to first place. So head on over there. It's the first place that I put my money every week, and you should too. Let's get into it, Sam. We've got a lot of inactives today. What we're going to be doing with this show is just basically breaking inactives as they come out. If anything surprising happens, if anything crazy happens, we'll talk about it on here. And we will also go through some of the stuff that we know about already. And there's a lot of stuff that we actually know about and can plan ahead for. And maybe there's a few things like last week with Josh Jacobs where you can kind of pivot a little bit later on in the afternoon games. So I am just going to pull up the inactives here. Sam, what's happening? How you doing?
Nothing much. Only a few weeks left of this. I don't know what we're going to do when this is all done.
It's going to be weird, right? Like it's a little bit crazy for football season. And you're like, oh man, you want that little break after. And then like 2 weeks later, you're just going to miss it. So
right.
First ones we just got coming out here. Looks like Adam Humphries is inactive for the Titans. No surprises there. Adoree Jackson as well, inactive. Maybe just talk a little bit about this game and about the inactives. The Titans secondary is a little bit banged up. Are you in on this at all?
Yeah, a little bit, especially since the Will Fuller they're optimistic that he's going to play. So that's kind of opening up what you're going to see from the Texans pass game in general, especially Watson. And also that with Fuller, that deep threat there, that helps out DeAndre Hopkins quite a bit too in the intermediate range. So Adoree Jackson being out is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking too. Makes a lot of sense to me. Are you on Will Fuller? Because he's not going to get much ownership in, like, if anyone on this slate, not named, I don't know, like there are a few wide receivers out there that can just break slates out of nowhere, and he is one of them. Hey.
Yeah. His ownership's pretty low. His salary is, medium, like enough that I'll definitely have some exposure to him. I'm not going to go overboard with it because he is coming off an injury and that his speed element is such a big part of what he does. But with Jackson out and, just everything Houston does offensively, I'll look at Fuller's way a little bit.
All right, sounds good. Well, let's talk about some of the things we already know as these inactives start to come out. The first thing on the big news front, of course, Mike Evans out for the season. Sad if you got him in your semifinals matchups here. What are we doing with this Tampa Bay Bucks wide receiving core? Is it Watson? Are we going to Brashad Perriman? Scotty Miller is back in, so maybe people are overvaluing Watson. What's your hot take on this?
I've kind of gone back and forth. Like this morning, I kind of settled on Watson. Earlier in the week, I was settled on Perriman. I'm kind of back on Perriman now. I don't know. I go back and forth. Perriman obviously has played more this season than Watson, but he's also a little bit dependent on the deep ball, which isn't really a problem with Tampa Bay. They throw it down the field a ton, but I think he kind of needs those big receptions to really pay off. As Watson got 8 targets last week, and Perriman got, I think, 3 catches on 6 targets. But Perriman had a touchdown. Also, see him having more touchdown upside, and it's only like an $800 difference between them, I think. Yeah. So I think I'm leaning a little bit towards Perriman now. I put Watson in our expert spreadsheet, but I think since I've entered that, I've kind of switched more to Perriman between the two.
Nice. I'm right there with you. I am also on the Brashad Perriman train. I feel like he's got the big play upside as well. So there's a lot to like there. We just got some news here as well from Kansas City. There is a snowstorm there. So yeah. I don't know. I don't buy too much into weather, but at the same time, like, watch these lines and see where they end up and see if they're going down as we get closer to game time.
And they're saying that Shady McCoy is late to the stadium. So,
well, I've got a report here from Schefter saying that all the players who were caught in traffic and accidents on the way have now arrived. So looks like he's there. I'm not guessing that anyone will be missing this game, but we may have to downgrade the offenses here a little bit, and maybe the Broncos side of things, that if you can still get that 10.5 line, maybe this game is a little bit closer. Are you also buying into the old Lesean Mccoy snowstorm narrative?
Not really, because Damian Williams is inactive today, so that's a bigger touch share for McCoy. And also, if there's a snowstorm, you're probably figuring they'll run the ball more, which obviously you're looking at the running backs that way. So,
yeah. Makes total sense to me. We got some more inactives here. Miami Dolphins inactives are out. Pretty much nothing there. They did not have much on the injury report. Carolina Panthers inactives are out. Eric Reid has been cleared to play. Is anything catching your eye there?
Not a ton. Eric Reid hasn't moved the needle much for me this year. The one thing would be Seattle's deep passing game, which has kind of been come and go as of late, and Tyler Lockett's really downgraded. But Metcalf's kind of been picking up lately, so that's I'm looking that way. Maybe DK Metcalf a little bit. Had Eric Reid missed, I'm still probably going to look at it a little bit, but Eric Reid back kind of diminishes a little bit what Seattle has. Makes
sense to me. Greg Little as well was on that injury report a little bit earlier on in the week. He is going to play right tackle, left tackle. He's a rookie left tackle. He didn't start the season as a starter and then just kind of came in. There you go. As well, Greg Olsen out. We knew that was going to happen already, though. Are you in on the Ian Thomas love this week?
I'd say I am a little bit more. Last week, everyone was in on him, and I was a little bit hesitant because of how little he had played this year. But he showed up and put up some good numbers. So I'm looking his way a little bit more this week than I was before, even if everything's kind of gone up in contingent with his performance.
If you're hanging by your little betting site there and you want to sprinkle a little cheddar, I'd probably throw a little on the Carolina Panthers plus 6.5. Looks like a lot of injuries. A lot of the questionables for the Seahawks tonight or this afternoon are out. Luke Wilson, tight end, out. Maybe upgrade Jacob Hollister. Jadeveon Clowney, we assume to be out, is out. Shaquille Griffin, questionable, out. Defensive end Ziggy Ansah, questionable, out. Linebacker Michael Kendricks, questionable, out. All of these guys are out. That's a lot of holes on defense. Are we now a little bit higher on the Carolina Panthers?
I probably would be. I mean, Shaquille Griffin and Jadeveon Clowney, I'd say, are their two best defensive players, period. Shaquille Griffin's been a very good cover corner for them, and obviously Clowney is basically their pass rush. So, yeah, I'm looking Panthers' way considerably more with this news.
More inactives coming in. Field Yates breaking some stuff here. Derrick Henry, active. Thank God. Did not want to think about what I was going to do with that game if he was out. Will Fuller is active. Jameis Winston, active. Julian Edelman, active. Noah Fant, active. Good. We got some inactives, though. Bo Scarborough, inactive. Damian Williams, inactive. Bo Scarborough, probably not going to move the needle much here with a matchup against the Tampa Bay Bucks and their #1 run defense. I was not going to get to any storylines running backs this week. I'm sure you weren't either.
No. And especially their Rick Wagner, their tackle, I think is done for the year, if I'm not mistaken. He's at least out this week. So yeah, I'm kind of pivoting away from Lions running backs probably for good now.
Yeah, makes sense to me. It was a pretty tough situation, and as someone who spent $80+ in a bunch of leagues on Ty Johnson this year, I'm scarred for life from the Lions running back situation. So, what about Damian Williams? We kind of suspected he would be inactive. Is this like LeSean McCoy maybe going a little under the radar here?
Yeah, he's kind of been going under the radar for a while. His ownership is very low. His price is very low. So, he's sharing the backfield with Darwin Thompson and Spencer Ware, who I don't think are going to they'll maybe draw some red zone carries away from him, but I think LeSean McCoy's still going to get the bulk of the touches, especially in a snowstorm. So I think that's definitely a good play to start building some lineups around.
It's kind of fascinating because he's pretty much the same price point around the industry that he was last week against the New England Patriots in New England in a much tougher matchup. And what we saw last week was Darwin Thompson getting some work in the passing game, 5 targets, 4 carries. We also saw Spencer Ware get a little bit of work, stepped in with 5 carries. So this isn't necessarily a 3-headed monster, but I think what it is like you're looking at LeSean McCoy getting maybe like a 60% workload, which makes it kind of tough for him to hit upside. But at the same time, it's a snow game and you're favored by 10.5 points at home at a bargain price. So I kind of like McCoy, and I don't think he's getting much ownership.
Yeah, I'm actually a little surprised how little ownership, especially since we knew Damian Williams was probably going to miss. It was leaning that direction anyway. His ownership hasn't gone up at all. And I'm assuming people have kind of known the weather situation coming in. So, yeah, I mean, his ownership is a big bargain for us right now.
All right. We have Washington inactives out. No surprises here. Guard Brendan Scherf, wide receiver Troy Quinn, Colt McCoy. Nothing crazy there. Let's talk a little bit about the Eagles because they have a lot of inactives. And this is a spot where maybe there's some other value that's going to open up with their wide receiver injuries. Of course,
Whoops.
Down goes Nolan.
Down goes Nolan. Okay.
There's a lot of 2 tight end sets. So I think both Ertz and Goddard are probably not even going to leave the field this week. And we can expect 90% plus snap counts for them. I'm expecting both of those two to be in the top 3, probably in yards per in total routes run. Are you buying into who are you upgrading the most here? Would you double stack these guys maybe as like a full contrarian move in some GPPs with Carson Wentz and not a bad matchup against Washington? What do you like more out of this situation?
I'm definitely looking more towards the tight ends and the receivers. Greg Ward's ownership's gone up a little bit. Arcega-Whiteside's basically staying near the bottom. The one thing with Washington that has me a little bit more intrigued is Quinn Dunbar being out. Quinn Dunbar is not only Washington's best corner, he's one of the best corners in the NFL this year. So, it's gonna open up some things on the outside a little bit because it looks like Josh Norman and I'm drawing a blank on his name. Their slot corner, his name I'm drawing a blank on. Fabian Moreau. That's it.
Fabian Moreau, yeah.
Yeah. They're both active, so they were questionable, so it's not quite as open as I was looking, but I'll still look Greg Ward's way a little bit, not nearly as much as I am with probably both tight ends.
All right, that makes sense to me. Bucks offensive tackle Donovan Smith, nursing ankle injuries and knee injuries, is inactive today, snapping his streak of 77 consecutive starts. Does that move the needle a little?
Maybe a little bit. Detroit doesn't have the best pass rush in the world. I think they're bottom 5 on PFF. Losing your left tackle is always kind of a big deal, but I think Tampa Bay is still going to throw the ball a lot, and Jameis Winston's going to push that ball wherever he feels like today, no matter what.
Makes sense to me. Just firing off. They're coming in fast. Devin White as well, injured, added to the injury report, inside linebacker for the Tampa Bay Bucks due to illness. He is good to go today. Chicago Bears, Taylor Gabriel, we knew this one. Danny Trevathan as well, out. That's about it. What about these Bears receivers? Because Anthony Miller, maybe not a bad option. Allen Robinson, are you going to any of these guys?
I'm intrigued by Miller. I'm always intrigued by Allen Robinson. I think he's maybe the most underrated football player in the NFL, to be honest.
Yep.
And what's he? He's priced. He's not priced among the top of the receivers, but it looks like 6,800 on DraftKings. Anthony Miller's price, I'm very intrigued by. His ownership's very low, and he's been tearing it up the last 3 or 4 weeks. So I'm definitely into Anthony Miller with Taylor Gabriel out again.
I was just looking at the New England Patriots, and there's someone named like Jasmine Elmanian, and it's in like handwritten letters, and it looked like Julian Edelman, and I was losing it on the inactives. But Patriots inactives out, not much there. Ryan Izzo, tight end, Cody Kessler, like Jason McCourty, I guess.
Jason McCourty is a big deal-ish. Yeah.
Is something like what are you doing? Does that make you upgrade the Bengals at all, or are you just is this just about nothing?
It's maybe a little bit. I've been Tyler Boyd's kind of reemerged last few weeks. I've been intrigued by him. He's he plays in the slot about a little more than half the time, so that's not necessarily lining up with Jason McCourty, but I'd say I still have some interest in Tyler Boyd specifically, not as much with John Ross.
Denver Broncos inactives out. Jawan James, starting tackle, is out. Noah Fant is active today. Thoughts?
I've liked Noah Fant lately. He has something going with Drew Lock. And basically he's kind of the only guy who's got a consistent thing going with Drew Lock, but he's just breaking off these big yak plays week in and week out. What was the first team you said for the Broncos?
What's that?
What was the first team you said?
Jawan James.
Jawan James. Oh, yeah. They're missing several offense. Jawan James has been missed most of the season, so they've kind of been working around that. Ron Leary's missed a few games in a row, too. So they've been kind of working through their offensive line. It's still been a relatively solid group, especially with rookie Dalton Reisner has been very good for them. So it's not moving the needle that much for me.
Okay, good to know. Okay, we've hit most of the major things. I just want to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that we've known for a little bit. Marvin Jones is on IR. Are you upgrading Kenny Golladay, Danny Amendola? They've got another guy. I can't even remember his name right now. What's their third wide receiver?
It's Chris Lacey.
Chris Lacey, that's right. Yes.
Yeah, who's played like 3 snaps this year.
I've noticed that Amendola is getting a bump in our projections as well as Kenny Golladay. Are you going to either of those guys against a pretty weak Tampa Bay Bucs secondary here? This game could have sneaky shootout potential with 2 pretty bad pass defenses, right?
Yeah, and our buddy Ben Raz has been pretty high on this stack, even with David Blau. Yeah, and I'm way up on definitely on Galladay. He's been great even with Marvin Jones, and Marvin Jones was kind of poaching some touchdowns from him this year, and I don't think that's not necessarily going to happen as much moving forward. But he's 3,000 more in Amendola's, and Amendola's still got like 70 targets this year at 4,100. I'm definitely into Danny Amendola a lot today.
Nice. Well, probably not going to get much ownership. Definitely going to fly under the radar. So I like where your head's at there. I will probably have to force a little bit in. Texans as well. Kiki Kute is out, so that's pretty much a 3 wide receiver stack. The Texans stack is coming up really highly in Osmo's projections. In our top stacks tool as well, you were getting about a 4% value in terms of the chances that stack is the number one in the day and their ownership. So it's about 12% to 8% right now, which is pretty good. It's not as high as we've seen in other weeks. The ownership feels pretty sharp this week. So if you have an edge going with one stack over another, feel free to do that. Do you like, if I was stacking up Deshaun Watson, are you just going with the traditional Hopkins and Fuller stack? Do you like any Kenny Stills here?
Yeah, I mean, not none, but I'm much more towards Hopkins and Fuller.
Fair enough. We are still missing a few teams here. I don't know when they're going to come out, but probably pretty quick here.
We know several inactives already with the Giants. They're missing both their tight ends once again.
Of course, yeah. So we've got Rhett Ellison out. We've got Evan Ingram out. There was another Giant out.
Kevin Zeitler. They're starting.
Kevin Zeitler as well.
Right guard.
Yeah. So I don't know. I've been on the Miami plus 3.5 side of this one, but I'm also on the Saquon Barkley side of this one as well. Patrick Laird coming in as a great value for us. Do any of these injuries affect your DFS exposure today?
No, I've been high on Saquon this week too. Zeitler's their best offensive lineman, but I don't think that matters quite as much against the Dolphins front. Even if they've been playing a little bit better the last 5 weeks or so, they're still one of the worst defensive lines in the NFL. So I'm still looking towards Saquon quite a bit.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you. It's a really tough call this week because you're getting about 30 to 40% ownership depending on the site. And so, anytime we have that kind of concentrated offense or ownership, you have to make a decision. I am going to go over the field. Most of my crunches are producing about 95% exposure with a few rules in there. So that's all right with me. It's a lot easier to predict ownership or to project running backs because of their safer workload. So I'm not afraid to go all in on something like that. We have the Green Bay Packers injuries. Not seeing anything here. Jared Veld here, offensive tackle. Dexter Williams is out, but that's about it. Kevin King looks like he is good to go.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin King being good to go isn't really an upgrade over Josh Jackson, who started in place from last week and did pretty well, actually, a second-year corner out of Iowa. Kevin King's been one of the worst corners in the NFL by any metric this year, so him getting back might actually be a downgrade.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like you got to upgrade Allen Robinson now, right?
There you go. Well, he'll probably get more Jair Alexander, I would assume, but we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. Alex Osmo Baker on the previous show with Laffy and Ben Raza was saying he does not like this game at all. I'm kind of inclined to agree. This has an ugly game written all over it, doesn't it?
It's cold. I'm in Chicago, not too far from Green Bay, and it is about 20 degrees right now, so I can't imagine what it's like in Green Bay.
All right, let's move it on to some of these afternoon games. If we've missed anything in this morning slate, we will circle back here. We're just going to go one by one and talk about what possible inactives we can prepare for. Because last week we were talking about Josh Jacobs. I think both of us kind of assumed that he would play. I can't rember if that's true, or I assumed he would play. Anyway.
We prepared for him to miss, but yeah, I kind of assumed he was going to play too.
Nice, and I was not prepared, and fell flat on my face with that one. But Alex had an interesting note this week that, like, in the higher dollar contests, a lot of the sharps moved at I think a 3% higher rate over to DeAndre Washington, and we're ready and we're prepared for that. So if Josh Jacobs is out, I think you should probably have maybe you don't want to leave a ton of cash on the table, right? So you're probably going to want to have another player that you can pivot to from a lower own. So just prepare yourself for that. I think as well, if you're drawing dead and you want to put Josh Jacobs into your lineups, that's not a bad move. It's a plus matchup. If he goes, he's going to be very unowned because I think people are worried about this shoulder injury.
By all accounts, everyone's saying that he is projected to play, and I haven't seen anything about him getting like a minutes restriction or anything like that. So I'm fully preparing for him to play, which may be fool's gold, but that's every report I've seen is that his MRI was positive and he's ready to go.
All right. Good news. We got about 10 minutes left before we pass this off to Josh Engelman and Chris Spags, and 1 hour before lock. We do have some free content as well, free premium content today on Osmo.com. Also, if you wouldn't mind smashing that like button, we greatly appreciate it. Helps us keep these shows free. Free premium content, ownership rankings. The premium stack tool is free, so head on over to Osmo.com and check that out. That's one of the most valuable tools that you will see every week in the NFL. It helps you so much hone down on what stacks you want and what stacks are going over own, what stacks are going under own. Gives you a huge edge, especially for large GPPs. As well, NHL ownership projections, beta testing, NHL ownership projections for DraftKings right now. Huge help. Has greatly improved my NHL DFS this year, and they are the most accurate NHL ownership projections in the industry. So check them out, along with all our ownership projections, really. But afternoon games, okay, we've got Oakland minus 6.5, the last ever game in Oakland for the Raiders, or at least until 10 years from now when they move back. 6.5 favorites over Jacksonville. Jacksonville has taken a nosedive this year, and now they're without DJ Chark. Let's talk about this Jags receiving core. Chris Conley, D.D. Westbrook. Who are you getting to here? Keelan Cole. Anyone catching your eye?
Conley the most, because he plays on the outside, which he'll step into Chark's role for the most part. Westbrook mostly plays in the slot. It will probably up Westbrook's targets a bit, but as far as like snap share and where they're positioned on the field, that's probably going to go to Conley. Keelan Cole will then probably step into Conley's previous role, and he'll probably see a few targets as well. Of those three guys, I'm probably highest on Conley this week.
Okay, I like it. Hunter Renfrow out. Josh Jacobs questionable, as well as right tackle Trent Brown questionable. I think we're assuming both those guys are going to play.
Trent Brown's a full game time decision, as they say. Josh Jacobs is, like I said, trending towards playing.
Okay, next one. We got Cleveland minus 2.5 points, 48.5 total at Arizona. Olivier Vernon out. Myles Garrett, of course, suspended. Center J.C. Treader is questionable, as well as right tackle Chris Hubbard. On the Arizona side, it is much ado about nothing. Any thoughts on this?
With the Browns, the injuries to Hubbard and Treader are relatively significant. Treader's probably their best offensive lineman. They're starting center, and Hubbard's their starting right tackle. I'd say that it will impact more Nick Chubb than Baker Mayfield or the receivers this week, because Arizona's run defense is better than their pass defense. And the Cardinals also, they just waived Terrell Suggs this week. So that's one of their better pass rushers that's no longer with them. Arizona, their only big I'd say there's two significant questionables with them. Justin Pugh is their best pass blocker. Kevin Peterson will be their corner opposite Patrick Peterson. And they currently have the worst rated coverage unit by PFF. So if they're missing one of their starting corners, then that's going to open up some things for Beckham and Landry.
Okay, good to know. An intriguing spot, I think, for a contrarian stack this week of the Atlanta Falcons. San Francisco 49ers, we already know this. They're missing 5 starters on defense. Yeah. Richard Sherman, K'Wan Williams, Weston Richburg, starting center as well, out. Jaquiski Tartt, out. D Ford, out. That's huge. Like, this is not getting enough play in circles, right? You can't miss half your starting defense and not expect the opposing offense to get an upgrade, right?
Yeah, I mean, Richard Sherman has been one of the best corners in the NFL this year, and the Falcons they're kind of one deep at receiver right now with Julio, and you should push all your chips towards Julio Jones with that news of Richard Sherman being out. And Jaquiski Tartt, I believe, missed last week, and we saw how the Saints kind of shredded the middle of the field with Tartt out last week. And so you're looking at
2 TDs early on, right?
Yeah, so you're looking at Austin Hooper quite a bit, I think, with that news. And then obviously D Ford is one of their 3 best pass rushers, so him being out, that's helping.
6 best pass rushers.
Well, they have a lot of very good pass rushers, but yeah, D Ford's been very good for them, so that's going to be helping out some Falcon stacks for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the other things I really like about this Falcon stack today is with Ridley out, this is going to be pretty concentrated. I think a pretty concentrated target share for Hooper and Jones. Of course, you have Russell Gage in the mix and guy whose name I can't pronounce and I will not butcher as well. But I like the concentrated stack here. I don't think you have to get too cute for it because we have Matt Ryan projected for about 2% ownership. So people are scared off of this 49ers defense and probably not paying too close of attention to the fact that so many players are injured. As far as bring back options go, I wrote about this in my top stacks column this week. I have no idea. it's it's your guess is as good as mine with the 49ers. They got 3 running backs. Mostert looks like the guy right now. You got Kittle, you got Sanders, you got Deebo Samuel. This offense is so spread out that it's tough. You might as well, if you're mass multi-entering, you can take a stab with 1 or 2 each. You can game stack it, or you can just not bring it back and hope that this offense spreads the ball around a little bit too much as well. But San Francisco in a good spot here as well. James Carpenter out, Isaiah Oliver, the right cornerback as well, possibly questionable. Either of those interest you at all?
Oliver's been he had a pretty rough start. He's a second year out of Colorado, and he had a rough start this year, but he's been picking it up lately. He's been pretty good. So his being out would be fairly significant. I would guess he'd go mostly against Sanders and Samuel. And I've been kind of into San Francisco stacks this week just because they do spread the ball around. You can kind of just pick out some things if you're doing some mass multi-entry and try out some Deebo, try out some Emmanuel Sanders, and Jimmy Garoppolo's been playing great for a few weeks now. So I've been a little bit into San Francisco this week.
A little bit into San Francisco. I like it.
A little bit.
Yeah, we got 2 games left in about 5 minutes. This works out. One of the situations I really want to talk about and get your thoughts on is the Dallas linebacking core. Who are we upgrading? We have Leighton Vander Esch out, and Sam Lee is out as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Sean Lee. Sean Lee, actually, I think I hear is going to play.
Okay.
I think, yeah, so it's just Vander Esch. With the Bears game, I'm going back to the Bears. Their offensive game plan was like almost entirely built around exploiting Jalen Smith, who's I used to think was a good coverage linebacker, but he has not been this year. So that's really got me looking towards Higbee as usual, because Everett's out again, probably out for the year.
Man.
So looking at Higbee a little bit more, and then Cooper Kupp also. That's something that NFL defenses do a lot, which is when a receiver moves into the slot, they suddenly think it's okay to cover him with a linebacker. Well, without Vander Esch, the Cowboys don't really have the linebackers to cover Cooper Kupp. So I'm looking at Cooper Kupp a little bit this week.
Makes sense. You are right there. Sorry, my bad. I saw the little Q and thought it was an O. Sean Lee is planning to go against the Rams this week.
Yeah.
So, but Leighton Vander Esch does make a difference, I think. Definitely the center of the field there. Kind of curious as to see how this works out. On the Rams side of this, Rob Havenstein is doubtful. Gerald Everett out. You mentioned Higbee. I like him a lot. Getting to him a lot in Osmos projections. I think they like him. Is it Havenstein or Havenstein? I always mispronounce it.
I actually don't. I think I hear Havenstein the most, but
Havenstein, one of the best right tackles of the year last year, has struggled a little bit this year along with the rest of the Rams unit. Is doubtful. They've been playing without him as well. If he's in, I guess it's an upgrade, but he's probably not at 100% either.
Yeah, I've been fading Gurley a little bit this week with Havenstein hurt, and just I'm not totally buying into his reemergence. And I think the Rams are kind of starting to figure out their passing game a little bit. I think they might lean on it a little bit more, especially with the Cowboys' struggles in their linebacker coverage.
All right, let's move it on. Final game here. We got 2 minutes left. Minnesota at the Chargers. BC Johnson questionable, as well as Xavier Rhodes has been. God, he's been awful this year. It's just like
terrible.
Shockingly bad. I'm willing to upgrade Mike Williams if he's in, maybe. And of course, Madison's out, which could mean some more work for Amir Abdullah, could mean a little bit more work for Dalvin Cook. What are you doing with this Xavier Rhodes news? Does it matter? And do you think that Madison being out would upgrade anyone on the Minnesota side of things?
I don't think it upgrades. Maybe Abdullah a little bit. He's minimum price. But really, I think it just means that Dalvin Cook's can get basically everything as opposed to 80% or 75%, whatever Madison was taking from that. With Xavier Rhodes, he's been terrible, but there was a game, I can't remember if it was he missed or Trey Waynes missed, and Mike Hughes started. It was against Dallas, and Mike Hughes got targeted 17 times, gave up 11 catches. So Mike Hughes starting on the outside is not exactly a favorable outcome for the Vikings either. So if Rhodes is out, as silly as it sounds, that's better for the Vikings defense than Rhodes playing. So,
right.
Or Rhodes missing. So I'm looking at Chargers receivers no matter what, to be honest.
Nice. I'm with you there. Another stack that's probably going under own. One last thought. Chargers, anyone? Desmond King? Is there anyone?
Well, I mean, Desmond King plays in the slot a lot, very good slot corner, and Adam Thielen coming back today plays a lot of his snaps in the slot. Osmo hasn't been super high on Thielen. I wouldn't say I am necessarily either. I'm a little wait and see on him. He missed like six games in a row, something like that. But I wouldn't be shocked if he got 9 targets today.
Okay, good to know. I got one final question for you, all right?
Right.
Semifinal playoffs. I'm a slight favorite. Do I take the risk on Jameis Winston, who's projected for a couple more points, or do I go down to Kyler Murray?
I've been in on Kyler Murray this week with that Browns pass rush being anemic without Vernon and Garrett. I think he's going to have a lot of time. I think he's going to run for a lot of yards, and I think he's going to find receivers. I'm in on Kyler Murray this week.
Okay, I might make the switch now. That's going to do it for us. We will be back next week to break down all the inactives. The season is quickly coming to an end. Stay tuned for Josh Engelman and Chris Baggs. They are going to take you all the way up to lock. Thanks so much for tuning in, everyone. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that like button, it would be greatly appreciated. All right, have a great week. Good luck. Win some GPPs. Tell us all about them next week.
Thanks, guys.
What's up, guys? We should be starting up now. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Awesemo.com live before lock show for the NFL's Week 15. We're in the home stretch here, hitting on the last few weeks of NFL players and games that we need to know. I'm Chris Spags, joined as always on Sundays. I guess not always, not last week, but you are back. The Chubster, Josh Engelman. How are you doing, Josh?
I'm good. I don't take a lot of shows off, but when I do, I just completely ignore sports, which was nice. I'm tired, man. I watched all of the UFC pay-per-view, got to the 3 title fights last night. First one kicked off around 11:15, and the weed got me. I passed out, woke up 5:30 in the morning. It was I was still on my couch. Didn't get to see the 3 things that I paid for, so pretty expensive nap I took.
Well, you missed a very good fight, which I also fell asleep on the Covington fight at the end. But
you fell asleep, man.
About UFC yesterday.
Yeah, you're on the West Coast. At least I have an excuse.
Yeah. Well, for the same reasons that you had.
But, that's fair.
That's fair. But it's, and also like I'm not huge on the UFC right now. They kind of lost me over the last few years. Just too many shows at this point for me to keep up. But that seemed like a big enough one to invest in.
It was. I invested in it, so I'm glad they got my 60 bones.
They did, and it was a good show. But another good show for you guys out there is if you are not paying rake in DFS, it's the best thing you could possibly see. Head over to fantasydraft.com right now and use the promo code AWESEMO, AWESEMO, for your free 7-day trial over at Fantasy Draft. Again, all the contest entry fees go over to the winners at Fantasy Draft, which is a big advantage for you as a player. So go check them out right now. Check out the Hooters main event, which may still have some entries left and may be filled already. I don't know. They fill pretty fast over there lately, but that is the biggest rake-free DFS tournament you will find in the industry for Week 15. So check them out at fantasydraft.com right now. And Josh, you playing any fantasy draft today?
I am not, which makes me feel really bad here today. I slept an extra 2+ hours once I realized where I was waking up and how tired I was. So I lost a lot of my prep for the morning. I'm still not even done running crunches and knowing what I'm going to be doing. So apologies to Fantasy Draft, but you guys should play there and save your rake.
Well, the Fantasy Draft value play of the day, according to Osmo's projections, because Josh he doesn't want to give it to you because he doesn't care enough about you guys to give him his Fantasy Draft. He wants to save all that rake-free winnings for himself. Dak Prescott looks like the QB play of the day on Fantasy Draft. The best value play at $12K over there, and a stack around him, I guess. Though Osmo's very big on Dak this week, which scares me quite a bit. But
spoiler alert, I've got a lot of Dak.
Well, okay, is he going to be your top owned QB? I guess let's talk about this up front because I don't have a top owned QB, but I have a QB I want to talk about who's usually one of your favorites. But is Dak your number one guy?
1A or 1B. Him and Deshaun Watson are the two guys I have the most of as of right now.
All right, so let's talk through Dak a little bit. It is a late game. It is still a pretty strong combined total here between the Cowboys and the Rams in this spot. Rams defense honestly worries me a little bit. I do think there's a decent chance that, and this again, we've talked about this a lot on the show as being a self-loathing Cowboys fan as I am. I kind of expect the worst for this team, and this Rams team has shut down much better teams in the last 2 weeks, holding teams under 10 points. Dallas really not that good and tends to play down to whatever teams give them, and I think that worries me a little bit in this spot. But you're stacking up Dak Prescott, so tell me what's the appealing part about Dak? Are you going with both Gallup and Cooper? Or are you going any weird stacks? Who are you getting?
A lot of Gallup, but I mean, I'm spreading it out through all of those guys. Not getting a lot of Zeke with him. Not that I'm like super upset about it. I just, pointing that out as something to note. This is fully based on Top Stack Tool. I'm going to pull that up on the screen right now since it's free today. So it's not like you can't just go there and check it all out. And again, I'm playing on FanDuel specifically. Dallas has the second highest top stack odds on FanDuel. The QB ownership, so Dak's ownership, is quite a bit lower than that number. I went through the stack tool, picked out the spots that I wanted to. I got to 7 quarterbacks, and Dak happens to be one of them.
All right. So, yeah, look, I get it on paper. Dak, one of the top projected QB plays on the week. Looks like decent value. Cooper and Gallup, not terribly priced for their opportunities either. I just worry, the Rams bringing a lot of pressure lately, a 30% pressure rate for them on the year now. And this just me being cautious. And there is a QB who I like quite a bit more. It's actually a game I like quite a bit more that I landed on a lot. And it's your usual guy, Jameis Winston, going against Detroit. And also, I have David Blau on the other side, too, who Ben Ross made me feel better about in the deeper dive, saying that he was one of his top contrarian plays of the week, top stacks of the week out of contrarian. I love this game. I think this game is really going to have some potential. I think some risk with Jameis's thumb, but talked about this earlier in the week on the strategy show with Lofty. There's a possibility that Jameis's thumb has been what's holding him back this whole time, and we have a rookie of the year scenario, which I have to play every single time, that maybe he's going to be the most accurate passer in the NFL and that his thumb is broken. So, Josh, are you getting any Jameis this week? Because his price is up, and I could see you not getting there for that reason.
I am getting Jameis. He is one of the 7 that I'm getting to. I don't have David coming back on the other side, but I am getting quite a bit of Danny Amendola, and I've just given a slight boost to Kenny Galladay's projection. He wasn't coming up as one of the guys coming back for me with Winston. It was just all Amendola, which felt wrong to me. So I had to make a little bit of a tweak to get that to show up. But as of right now, yes, Winston is one of my quarterbacks as per usual. Shout out to Chris Godwin on this one. So at least I don't have to get Mike Evans wrong today.
Yeah. So I want to talk about the Tampa Bay receivers because this has been one thing that's been talked about a little bit in some of our shows. The guys on the Inactive show right before us, Sam and Nolan, talked about it a little bit. I'm still very much team Justin Watson, and I know that there's some risk now. I've seen some reports talking about Scotty Miller picking up more reps. From my mind's eye and what I've seen and some of the reports that I've tried to keep an eye on, I have read more local Tampa Bay media and tweets than I've ever read, I think, this entire year, other than when I was getting flamed by Jameis fanboys earlier in the year. It is, to me, Justin Watson looks like a very sneaky play now. He's going to be under 5% owned. Doesn't take a lot to get above the field on him, and I just really like the spot for him. Detroit's passing defense is so bad, giving up 275 passing yards a game, a little bit over that. And Jameis, I think, is still going to throw. I don't think there's a reason people have talked about, oh, is it a week to go to Ronald Jones? Maybe they'll lean on the run game. Like, I don't know what people have seen with Tampa Bay that makes them think that's a thing they would do or that Jameis would want to do. So to me, Watson is the play. Are you getting Brashad Perriman at all? Are you getting the OJ Howards, the lesser tier of Bucs receivers at all?
Not really. And that is giving me some concern. You expect one of Evans or Godwin to go, I don't want to say crazy, but like given the way that Jameis approaches the game, one of those guys is probably going to get keyed in a little bit more. The other one is going to have a little bit more freedom. Now, it's a little bit trickier for Godwin. I'm still loading up specifically on Godwin because I think that he is good regardless, but I'm not getting to as much of the slop that exists for the rest of the Bucs.
I would not call them slop, though. Perriman's price to me just seems a little too high. I'd much rather go to Darius Slayton at the price point that Perriman is at on DraftKings. But yeah, like I have some of the quote unquote slop. But for me, it's really Godwin. Godwin is the guy I trust the most. I kind of have worked this out throughout the course of the week where we saw it last week with the Colts, where in the second half, they really took away Chris Godwin. Godwin was hardly targeted at all. Yeah. The Colts are a competent team. Their defense isn't that good, but they know how to strategize well. They cover guys like they game plan well when they figure things out. Detroit does not do that. And that's sort of why I'm not afraid of Godwin here. Like normally I think this would be a spot with Godwin's ownership being where it is, where I would try to get the cheaper guys because Jameis is going to throw regardless. But I think Detroit is not going to think to cover Godwin with two men because that's just something they don't do. And that to me is why I really do like Godwin as one of the top plays of the day for me. The Detroit side, did you get any David Blau or did you at least get his receivers at all?
Receivers, yes. Specifically Amendola. David Blau, no, not at all.
Okay. I got some Blau. I have a good amount of Blau. And I'm intrigued by the spot. He's had almost 20 fantasy points against Chicago, which is his high mark on the year. It's only 2 games that have been against the Vikings and the Bears. That's like a pretty tough sledding couple matchups to go against when you're debuting. Now he gets Tampa Bay. Targets are consolidated a bit more. Chris Lacy at the minimum price is out there. I don't know how much faith I have, but he's a decent receiver from Oklahoma State who I don't mind. But really, Galladay and Amendola, I think, are 2 decent targets to go with Blau. And I just feel like they're going to have to throw here. So I don't mind Blau at home in this spot. Playing for his future, it seems like, and in a spot where you can take advantage. Tampa Bay giving up almost 280 passing yards a game. So I would say get some Blau in your life or Black, depending upon your worldview.
Third lowest odds of being the top stack in Alex's top stack tool. They are not on my radar.
It's a tournament play only, Josh. It's not a cash play.
But I'm not confident it's a tournament play either.
Because Brett, prepare to clip that. Somebody, Brett, Ryan, Joey, whoever's out there, somebody prepare to clip that because that's David Blau, millionaire maker quarterback winning this week would be my guess.
I'm cheering for whoever can win Alex $2 million.
That's also Alex out there right now. Send your positive vibes in the air. Actually, to both Alex and Ship My Money over at the FanDuel World Championship for fantasy football. Alex down at the DraftKings one in Miami. So both those guys are representing out there. So I don't know if we don't have a tournament link, right? Nobody gave us that.
I mean, they exist.
Yeah, they exist somewhere. Maybe if one of those guys tweeted it, go check it out. But those are big tournaments going on, and there's some way to follow it. But they didn't give us that in advance.
Go to Fantasy Cruncher and go to their active links for today's contest. You'll find it pretty quickly.
Oh, there you go. I'll shout out Don't Embiid My Status in the premium Slack. Watching us on a 75-inch screen. Josh, it's like we're on Real TV for Don't Embiid My Status.
We are on Real TV. Real TV is now the internet, which is kind of crazy. I am not supposed to be shown on any screen that big, however.
We wouldn't do a Fox Sports 1 show in a heartbeat if they gave us a chance over a YouTube show.
In a moment. But I don't see them as entirely not comparable. Not any longer.
No, I mean, for some of those Fox Sports 1 shows, they're probably the same viewership that we get on our shows, but still something about being on TV. So thank you, Don't Embiid My Status, for upgrading our egos a little bit by putting us.
We need to apologize to one other owner of our company, Tom Kennedy. No love here, guys. Tom, I forgot you were there. We are also cheering
I
for
didn't even
you to win that money. Maybe you and Alex can chop that. So talk about the same lineup, but like don't really talk about the same lineup.
Yeah, if you guys want to collude, we're rooting for both of you. Now, I honestly, I don't keep track of who's going. Is Eddie there too? Our tech Eddie?
I honestly have no idea.
Well, whoever's there, we're
And I
rooting
can't
for you that
remember
we know.
who's at which event either.
Everybody who's at an event that I know and like, I am rooting for, and everybody who I don't know, I am not rooting for. So that's how we'll phrase it.
Adam's just in Puerto Rico to get drunk, so
Well, he's anywhere to get drunk, which one of the things I like about Adam the most. Let's talk about some other QBs here. Anybody else you're landing on an appreciable amount? We've talked about some of the main guys I have, and I have some other crap too, but tell me anybody else that you're landing on.
So here are my 7 quarterbacks: Watson, Prescott, Mahomes, Goff, Rivers, Ryan, Winston.
So the Mahomes play, we have a follow-up question here from Serve and Don't Volley in the premium Slack. Is the Kansas City weather an issue? I think there's supposed to be 25? Is that the one with winds? I know it's snowing there, but I know it's not great in terms of snow and cold, but there might be windy too. Have you looked at the Kansas City weather at all, or is that not something you're rating at all?
Not something that I'm worried about. And Tom is not officially there. The social media team is his proxy.
Okay, there you go. Good job, social media team. That's
also,
why we had some good.
Really smart way to do that, because then we can get a bunch of social media out from the event.
Yeah, that's good. Smart way to run the company, guy who runs the company. Tom,
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Kansas City right now, 24 degrees, only 8-mile-per-hour wind. So I was wrong about the wind, but it is snowy and 24 degrees in Kansas City right now.
And that sounds really unappealing. I think it's cold here and it's 55, and I'm drinking a hot toddy.
The line hasn't really moved, so I would still err on the side of not being affected by it. Though, to be clear, I'm not playing much Kansas City this week. And in fact, I actually took out one Kansas City stack I had today, just this morning while I was trying to clean some stuff up. So I am less on Kansas City. So it's not really affecting me. But, I remember one game a couple of years ago where Nick Foles went nuts and it was like a foot of snow on the ground. And that was, I think when I just started playing daily fantasy, and then he was in my season-long team. And he just went absolutely crazy. And I think the logic in that game in particular would have been like, don't play this guy. And that was during the Nick Foles Eagles hot run there. But, Pat Mahomes is not going to be a guy who's not going to throw it because it's snowy out, I would think.
No, I don't get the sense that he's going to be checking down. You would just play someone else then, not put him out there in the snow.
And there's also the same risk of like a DB falling down. Like that's a thing that happened. I remember specifically in that game. Like it's bad for both sides. All right, so we talked about some of your other QBs. I'm trying to think who else I have some. Here's one guy I didn't get, but I feel like we should hit on because I think people will follow the points a little bit, and the ownership has trickled up throughout the week. Ryan Tannehill going in a game against Houston, one of the highest combined totals on the slate, over 50 points in this game from Vegas. And Houston's defense not that good, and Tannehill's been really efficient to the point where it seems unsustainable. But we saw this last year with Russell Wilson, where if you're getting the opportunities and throwing guys open into space, you can't have these big outlier performances. I have very little Tannehill this week, though. His projections come up, too, for Alex. So that kind of scares me a little bit at his price point. But Tannehill, he's not a guy you got any of, right? All right, I forgot he was on your list.
You would be correct. I do not have Tannehill. He is that stack is projected to be the top stack at about half of Tannehill's ownership on FanDuel, so I am avoiding.
Okay, so that's a logical reason to avoid it there. I think it's worth mentioning, though. I mean, A.J. Brown is priced up. His ownership is also coming up with him, so that's a little bit scary, but Brown has had 2 big games over 25 fantasy points in the last 3, and the play action is clearly setting up some options in the pass game. And Houston's pass defense really isn't that good either. A 47 coverage grade from PFF, giving up 7.2 yards per pass and a decent amount per game too. So I don't find an issue with Tannehill really. I just think price wise and stack wise, like there's not a 2-man stack I want from Tennessee, and I think that's kind of the issue for me.
That's fair. Tannehill was one of the guys that the wife was looking at for her first round of season long. She had your boy Josh Allen, great spot, swapped out to Tom Brady for today.
Yeah, I have Josh Allen's in my season long QB this year too, and I'm going to Jameis today just because I'm really going down with the Jameis ship this week, which is a great place to be in both your season long and your DFS lineups.
I'm a fan.
So here's a game which I don't believe you have the quarterbacks from, and I would get why. And I don't have much of the quarterbacks, but I do like some of the skill position guys. Miami at the Giants, and we can start talking running backs a little bit vis-a-vis this as well. But to me, Darius Slayton. Sorry, what?
Can we not
No, you have to. This is an important game with a decent total and two teams who give up fantasy production. So just because they stink in real life doesn't mean they stink in fantasy.
Well, I know.
So
Saquon Barkley, most exposed running back right now.
Okay, so, is he a potential 100-yard and a TD pick today?
Oh, fuck, I don't know. Look, I'm going to put this out there right now. I don't want to screw with anybody today. I'm not slow playing this. I am not picking Chris Carson today. I promise you this. My wife has him in fantasy. I will not do that to her. I like my life. So I promise you, it's not Chris Carson.
And it's worth noting that last week, without Josh in here, Nolan did in fact get his one pick filling in. Unclear if that'll be counted or not. I'm going to err on the side of no.
No, it's like, do you remember when Luke Walton was the coach while Steve Kerr had back surgery? Steve Kerr got credit for all of those wins.
I don't know if that's how it goes. I think the game is close enough now where I don't want to give you even a chance to dig back in the last few weeks.
That's how it was in the NBA for coaching. So I can't imagine we would be picking a different set of rules. That seems perfectly similar.
I would err on the side of not allowing it. But last week, Emac and I missed with Leonard Fournette and Melvin Gordon. Fournette was just terrible. Melvin Gordon just barely didn't get there. But DeAndre Hopkins did get there for Nolan. So shout out Nolan. Nolan 1-for-1 in his 100 yards in a TD game. So he wins the pick rate game for the year.
Hey, chat. Put 1 in the chat if I should get credit for Nolan's pick. Put a 0 if I shouldn't.
That is for sure going to be a 0, I hope.
C is zeros. We're going to know who the real people here are. A lot of zeros coming out that I'm going to be new friends with.
I made Josh take your Emac's bad pick last year, so you should get Nolan's good pick this year. Ooh. I don't recall that, Emac.
I don't recall that either, but I do now.
Well, I have the sheet open, so I can actually look at it and tell what we did with it.
Trax Bandicoot, first entrance of a 0. DFS Chief, new favorite play. Pedro, new favorite person. Here it comes. Now I can't keep track. A lot of people putting in numbers that aren't 420.
Oh Jesus! CRS Trantio's response was just
it zipped by pretty quickly. Emac went with 69. Somebody else went 69. Yeah. All you people putting in ones. Hope you lose all your money today.
Decent split for O's and ones, but we'll do the 100 yards and a TD picks in 9 minutes, guys. So we won't slow roll it, and I'll probably be taking Chris Carson. Actually, I don't even know. So let's talk Saquon, and let's talk about the 7K running backs a little bit. And we can kind of go back to the rest of the Giants Miami game. Sure. So Saquon's your top exposed running back. Is there somebody else you're getting even close in?
Chris Carson.
Okay. And is Josh Jacobs as much of a thing on FanDuel as I think he should be on DraftKings?
I'm 4x the field on him, which is only 16 to 4 and change. So yes, but not with any sort of like really aggressive stance.
Oh, Giggity DFS going with the super chat for the 1. So shout out Giggity DFS. He really wants you to get credit.
Wait. Oh yeah. Wait. 1s are good for me, right?
Yes, 1s are good.
Okay.
Zeros
Giggity
are bad.
DFS. I like you. I was gonna boot you out and take your $2.
Giggity DFS
Instead,
is a good guy.
I like you more now. Matt.
So
Matt does stuff. Says you guys should do fade of the day too. Isn't that what I've been doing?
We do fade of the week on the contrary, and that's my fade of the week was Saquon Barkley. Even though I do have a little bit, but I am under the field enough where I feel like I still lived up to my part of the agreement. So the reason I guess I'll give my take for the reason why I'm not big on Saquon.
Yeah.
He projects really well. He's Alex's top projected value at running back and top projected raw points play at running back. So those are all certainly going to be positives. And that's why for me, it wouldn't be a full fade ever. But I just like Carson more. I like Jacobs a little bit more. I just feel like their roles are a little bit easier to predict. And I trust their opportunity to get that chance behind their offensive line. Whereas the Giants, I don't know that I trust that. I feel like we've seen Saquon just kind of keep having the same situation over and over again. More confident in Saquon than if Daniel Jones were in, because Daniel Jones' mobility does take away the little check down options that he should be able to get. But I just feel like there's enough guys who are cheaper, like Todd Gurley. I don't mind at 6K either. I don't mind taking stabs at Mostert. Like, I think there are guys who are cheaper who I might have the same ability to get to wherever Barkley gets. And if Barkley has that day that his season-long owners have been waiting for and DFS people have been waiting for, that's fine. But like, to me, Carson and Jacobs feel like they are in can't miss spots, whereas Barkley feels like he's in one, but just based on his usage, like, do we know it's a can't miss spot? Because it hasn't been there in 2019.
Yeah, he's been so bad lately. But I have to look at it like this, and I don't know if this is a good idea or not. We know that, look, I can't predict injuries. I can look at all the data that I can find, and I have no reason to suspect that Saquon Barkley isn't still like really, really good at football. And if that's the case, then I'm more than okay with having him as one of my most, in this case, my most exposed running back in a fantastic spot.
Yeah.
I'm doing my best to ignore his recent history.
He's definitely due for positive touchdown regression. I mean, a 1% TD rate for him on the year in the run game, 1.3%, 1.7% in receiving touchdowns. So that's one thing that's there for him. I struggle to see him doing it. I mean, it's like, this is the matchup to do it. Miami gives up 140 rushing yards a game. Their run defense grade is not good either. I think he had just about 20 touches last week. So, and that was against a much tougher matchup against Philadelphia. So it's scary, but I just feel like there are guys a little bit cheaper who get close enough to the points area that he's going to be in. And if Barkley goes for 40, I'm just screwed. Like, that's just what it'll be.
Well, I hope that he does.
I'm going to err on the side of hoping he does not, but that's what makes these shows great. Disagreements like that. All right, so we talked a little bit of running backs. We'll talk more running backs, but I want to close out the QBs that we have. To me, Carson Wentz is an intriguing play because you are getting that stack for cheaper than you probably would because, so I really don't like J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, but I do love Zach Ertz, and I don't mind Greg Ward in there at the minimum price on DraftKings. I think these guys can have opportunity. I think Josh Perkins, too, at tight end, not a guy who I would prioritize by any stretch, but he ran a lot of routes last week when they were down to just nobody at receiver, and Perkins was targeted more than Arcega-Whiteside. I think the tournament move, I mean, if these guys were going to be owned pretty well and they're owned decently, would probably go to Arcega-Whiteside just because he gets no looks. But that's the issue, is that he gets no looks. But I think Carson Wentz at 2%, like, he can pass it here. And Washington's been competitive in enough games where it wouldn't shock me if Carson Wentz had a decent day because Washington just hangs in there. They also suck pretty bad.
Yeah, I don't have much from Philly, just a handful of Ertz and Miles Sanders, but I'm not really anywhere else there.
Man, so you're not getting Ertz at all at tight end?
Just a little bit.
To me, he's like a lock play to me at tight end almost. I mean, there's guys at that price point, and to be clear, like, I don't really use that term lightly because I don't think anybody's ever a lock play, but he just gets that workload every week when there aren't the other guys out there. When Jeffrey in particular isn't out there, he's had over 10 targets in 3 out of his last 4 games. The one game he didn't get them was the day that Jeffrey went nuts, and that was also a day that Ertz had a hamstring issue, which had him questionable. I just don't see how Ertz doesn't get himself 10 targets here unless Philadelphia just blows the doors off, and they haven't blown the doors off of anybody at all this year.
Yeah, so like I'm right around the field. It's not like I'm crazy or anything. He's like 12% owned. I think I have 11 or something along those lines for right now.
Wentz has no one to throw through to throw to. Legalize says he has Ertz to throw to. That's the thing. It's like he's going to throw to Ertz, I think, quite a bit today, and he's going to throw. I mean, he's going to throw less so to Goddard, but he's going to throw to Goddard and Perkins too, and Greg Ward. I mean, these are the guys who are going to get a lot of targets, I think, today. And if they turn him into touchdowns, it could be decent upside for Wentz. Not the best team total here, but these guys to me just seem a little bit underowned because I like when there's a consolidated target outlay, and these guys about as consolidated as you can get.
No, I get where you're coming from there. I'm a little concerned that I don't have enough Ertz.
Yeah, I get some more Ertz in your life, everybody out there. That is one I would dig my heels in on this week, is just have a good amount of Ertz, at least be with the field on Ertz, because I think he could have a really big day today. Let's see. Let's talk more about the running backs, and I guess we should talk about the other back on the other side of the Giants game, Patrick Laird, who like logically I get it, and I do have a little bit because he projects decently as value. I don't see him having tournament winning upside, but he has gotten like 18 fantasy points in an adverse spot earlier this year or a couple weeks ago. What are you doing with Laird? I'm going to assume you're not bullish on him, but confirm that for me if you can.
I am currently like 50% higher than the field.
Okay. Just the value in his pass game work?
Yeah, exactly. Look, he's 5,500. He's just one of the guys that makes things work a little bit on FanDuel. I feel I don't want to say that I feel safe with him because that would be a stupid statement, but I feel fine getting there. It's not like I'm stacking up that game. Like, I don't have either quarterback, so he's kind of just the guy that fits at that point. He's the best of a bad situation. I'm not happy about it, but It's nothing crazy. He's just I don't know how to justify it. He stinks. That team stinks. None of it's fun. It's just happening. It's just happening.
He had 20 potential touches last week. I mean, he had 15 carries, 5 targets, and caught 4 of them. So I mean, like that's a pretty good workload for a guy at his price point.
Right.
Not explosive, and you might be able to tell that just looking at him if you want to make an unfair stereotype. But Laird is a guy who's getting that work, and this game should be competitive. It looks like. And Giants run defense not terrible, but still definitely not good enough where you're going to be worried about it. So I don't hate Laird. I am a little bit under the field on Laird, but I feel like he's just a kind of a symptom of the slate where if you want to get some guys, especially the higher priced guys, a wide receiver like the Gallaudays, like the DeAndre Hopkins, like Godwin, you kind of have to take some Laird here and there, even though it just feels like a bad play, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's not.
I hear you, man.
If you can get like 17 fantasy points against Philadelphia, like I feel like you should be able to get to 20 against New York. Like, I mean, that's not like a totally analogous thing, but with that amount of work, it seems like it's not crazy. What's ownership on Laird? Somebody in Joseph Mata and caps locks asking in the chat, with many exclamation points and question marks. It is 15% on DraftKings. We'll give this one away for free. 15% on DraftKings, and he is 17% on FanDuel. Where's he on Yahoo?
Don't know.
He is 17% on Yahoo too. So apparently Laird just getting capped around 17 everywhere, and 17% on FanDuel. So he's just Mr. 17, Patrick Laird across the industry. Who else are you getting at running back that you feel like is worth the people's time? That's at least Patrick Laird tier.
Always getting Fournette on FanDuel, hard to avoid. Got some Gurley, Dalvin Cook, Josh Jacobs, who we mentioned before. That's probably the extent of anybody that isn't like I don't have anybody that I'm like 8 times the field on or anything like that. Kind of pretty cut and dry. Pretty light on Zeke, all things considered. Don't have a ton of Christian McCaffrey. He's preposterously expensive on FanDuel. I assume he's preposterously expensive everywhere. Yeah, like this is really going to just come down to Saquon for me.
All right. We'll talk a little bit more about running backs. Let's do the 100-yard and a TD pick. I'll go first. I'll take the guy off the board who you're not going to take anyway, I guess, which kind of ruins the game. Well, I guess I have enough Josh Jacobs now where he might be the play. No, I'll take Chris Carson. He's safer. Chris Carson's to me the safe pick for 100-yard and TD.
I was totally going to take Chris Carson too.
Were you really?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. No, this one's easy for me.
I believe you.
This one's easy for me.
Pick Saquon. Just pick him.
My 100-yard and a TD pick for Week 15 in the NFL goes to, and let me be clear, I'm essentially on a 2-pick win streak, ignoring Nolan. I might not have gotten credit for Devontae Adams, but my man had 2 touchdowns when I picked him. The jinx is long over. Saquon Barkley's filling up the stat sheet today. He's my pick.
All right. Yes, I like this. I want to see the chat reaction too. And we'll see what Emac, your old pal Emac, going to make his pick in the premium Slack momentarily, and we'll bring it to you guys because actually we should update on the standings. I have this. We don't have a count on this one. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 correct on the year. Emac has 1, 2, 3 correct, and Josh has 1 plus 1 from Nolan. So actually, I think I might technically be able to win now, I think. If I get this week, I for sure have won.
It's already over, man.
Well, look, this game, I do have to say, I thought this game would be like, we would all have like maybe 10, 8, 9, somewhere in that range. Way harder than I would have thought.
I stand by my story. I should have credit for Adams' game from 2 weeks ago. We didn't agree to it. I don't expect it to get added on. But I picked a guy that got 2 touchdowns, and it's not like he had 2 touchdowns and 2 yards. The pick worked. It just didn't happen to meet the criteria. But if you get 2 TDs, you should just be right automatically. Something to think about
like
for next year.
The 100-yard and a TD, or the 2 TD, or the double dong TD game.
Right. Would you be right? Would you agree with me moving forward that a 2 touchdown game should be included?
Well, what if it's like the Mike Tolbert equivalent of that, where it's a guy who gets 2 1-yard touchdowns?
But you're not picking someone like Mike Tolbert. We're still picking guys that have like real names and shit.
Honestly, but you could just pick like Emac would pick like Joey Kuhn or something.
He also
You pick
still right, but like those are terrible picks. I got 2
Emac over
TDs and like
Ezekiel Elliott.
65 yards from the leading receiver for the Packers. That's a win by any mechanism.
Ezekiel Elliott is Emac's pick because I took Chris Carson, so that's officially in.
Guys, join me on the Saquon Barkley train.
We'll go back to the drawing board for it next year. 100-yard to TD proved to be more difficult than we realized. Maybe we'll make some. we'll tool it off. We'll retool it in the offseason.
I don't expect credit. I just think that would be a reasonable addition moving forward. Because I was happy to see him get 2 touchdowns. Like, I was going nuts, but I lost on a technicality.
I had a lot of him that week too, so I was happy too.
We should probably just pick a fantasy score. So-and-so needs to score this many fantasy points.
Yeah, that's a thought. That's a thought. Maybe 25 fantasy points or something.
25? Fuck me.
I guess, Adams wouldn't have gotten there either because he had 24 that game.
25's a lot. 20 feels right?
20 feels fair. Yeah, we'll think about the branding on that one. Yeah. We got a super chat in from Keith Woodfork, so we appreciate the super chats. He's asking Alan Hearns or Mike Williams for DraftKings. Oof.
This one's yours, brother.
Yeah, I don't have either guy this week. Any Miami stack I had Gesicki instead of Hearns. So I would err on the side of, let's just look at the projections, confirm. Yeah, it's a pretty decent projection boost for Mike Williams over Hearns, so I go Mike Williams. Let's see. Legalized that. I like legalized. So I'll answer this question. Thoughts on the Bears defense? We don't usually talk defense too much here because defense at this point is pretty variable. I paid for the Patriots this week and I have no confidence in that at all in the ones that I have that. But Bears defense, I would say not a great play on the road, but I do have a little bit of them just because Aaron Rodgers doesn't throw interceptions at all. So it's really not a good spot, but maybe they just keep their points down and oppress the run well enough. But hard to expect turnovers. Rodgers has under a 1% interception rate on the year. He's actually got a 0.5% interception rate. He's not taking a lot of sacks. So I don't know that I see a ton of upside, but at the price, I don't hate it.
Josh is debating the rule so he could be 2 for 14 instead of 1 for 14. Still appreciate you, Josh. Damn right, that's what I'm doing.
That does kind of sum you up pretty well.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing.
Just as a person, though, like,
oh yeah,
you're like,
sure.
You want the rules to be right. I get it. Jeff Hothand saying, pick 2: Eckler, Melvin Gordon, or Raheem Mostert. First of all, I would not take both of the Chargers running backs in the same game.
No.
I'd go Gordon and Mostert.
That works for me.
Yeah. All right. Rest of the running backs. Anybody else? I feel like we've talked about most of your guys. I got a little bit of James White with Osmo's projections yesterday, but I think they've come down enough where I wouldn't be getting as much White now. And that's not a play. That to me last week was a play, and they still didn't use him as much as I thought they would. They went with Burkhead and Michelle in the first half, and then once they were completely screwed and were not moving the ball at all, then they went to White again. To me, the move is start with White and get him involved early, but they refuse to do it. So I'd have a tough time going there. Both Scarborough's out. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else. Josh Jacobs, we should talk about maybe a little bit more. I think he's in an amazing spot going against Jacksonville's defense. The shoulder thing, I don't love, but he seems like he feels good. He's talked about, I was watching interviews with him where he's been playing through pain all year long. So this to him is kind of the same thing. And he's had like tough injuries. He played with a broken ankle, I guess, at Alabama. He was talking about that in some interviews. So a dude who I'm willing to absorb the risk on because Jacksonville's run defense is that bad. Where are you with the field with Jacobs again?
We're projecting 5. I've got 20.
Okay. Yeah, that to me is about right. We haven't projected right now at 4% unless ownership has changed, which is possible. I do not have 4%. I think I have closer to 40% of Josh Jacobs just because I really like the spot for him and I don't think he's going to get enough ownership.
So I'm trying to pair I just don't like my wide receiver exposures. I don't really know what to do about it. But I think maybe the answer is just nothing.
Yeah. Look, this week in particular, I think if you're not going to obviously you always want to like your lineups, but I think there are some ways you're going to feel uncomfortable with some of your exposures this week because there are guys who you're going to have exposure to that you probably haven't wanted the first 14 weeks of the year.
That's an understatement. Okay, that's one. I don't
Cleveland
need.
is one team we haven't talked about yet, who I do have some of, and I kind of feel like I should have had more of, but I don't trust Odell Beckham, honestly. With his sports hernia thing, his numbers have taken a downtake, and the targets have also taken a really big fall. It scares me to play him, though Arizona just keeps giving up this production every week. And to me, Baker looks underowned. I ended up with more of just Landry than the full stack, but I don't mind Baker stacked if you want it. If you want to take the risk and go with Odell and Landry, or if you want to go to Baker, I think Hunt correlates well enough where for the pass game where he can have an opportunity to pick up some big runs in the pass game. But did you get any Baker or the wide receivers for Cleveland?
Not really. I'm under the field on all those guys, and I don't have any Baker. I have essentially 0 Odell, and I am half the field on Landry.
Yeah. Okay. I think Landry is worth the field's exposure just because he's healthy and he's getting targets, and Arizona gives up 295 passing yards a game, and they just continue to give it up over and over and over again. Their coverage unit is now down to a 33 graded coverage grade from PFF, which is the lowest that any team has been at any point this year. Even the early part of the year where Miami and the Giants were really bad, they were still in the high 30s. So Arizona's really fallen south in the pass game, and I think there's opportunity. And one of very few games too where you could say there's not going to be any weather issues because they will have the dome closed, or it'll be warm Arizona weather. So either way, a good spot for Barkley going in Arizona, or for Baker going in Arizona. Too much Barkley on the minds today.
Charles?
Yes, of course. The only relevant Barkley to discuss. Did you get any Atlanta this week?
Defense?
No, as an offense.
Oh, yeah. So Ryan is one of my quarterbacks. I'm like 2.5 times the field on Freeman. Where is Julio? I'm like 2+ times the field on Julio. Not getting as much of your boy Austin Hooper as I would have expected. I'm just kind of neutral to the field there. But yes, I am getting to Atlanta.
Yeah, so
I'm just closing my office door, but I'm here.
It just seems odd for Atlanta that so the team totals come up a little bit, and it seems like it should, given that San Francisco has nobody in their secondary left. They have 3 major injuries. Richard Sherman, Kwan Williams, and Jaquiski Tart are all out in that secondary. And they also have some injuries up front. So it seems like it should be a much better matchup for Atlanta, even without Calvin Ridley out there. I didn't land there as much as I was hoping I would. But I do think the Jones, Hooper, Ryan trio, like you got to assume they're going to give up some points on defense. And these guys are going to have to throw. And if San Francisco is weakened, like this may not be the same defense that's been really, really good on the year. Like schematically, it should be there, but the talent's got to drop off and you lose basically your top 3 guys in the secondary.
For real. Yeah, you're not kidding there. You would think it would just fall off of a cliff, right?
You would think, but Vegas not really adapting to that. It's still just a 19.3 implied point total for Atlanta compared to 29.8 for San Francisco. But Atlanta would be playing from behind in that scenario, so maybe some garbage time.
Yeah.
And I don't mind taking stabs at guys like Gage and Olanidi Zacharias because these guys would be running routes out there, and Ryan can be agnostic with who he's throwing to if guys are covered well. So maybe schematically you try to take Julio Jones away, and it opens up for the other guys with your less talented secondary. But
as of right now, I hope they don't take Julio Jones away.
No, I mean, that's the guy to go to. And logically, it makes sense without having Sherman out there outside. Like, that's a much better matchup for Julio, unless they just really sell out just to not give him the ball, which, that's what a smart team would do. So we'll see. Is Brady finally eating today? TRM Music asks in the chat. I hope so. I would err on the side of no.
I hope so.
Oh, see, that's right. Brady's one of your quarterbacks.
No, that's who the wife's starting in season long.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't really got.
I don't have a single share.
Okay, I have none of the Patriots at all either. Doesn't seem like a game where they need to do a lot.
Would you rather have Josh Allen today or Tom Brady in season long?
Well, Josh Allen plays the Colts.
I don't know, man.
I think he plays the Colts. I would honestly probably play Josh Allen against the Colts if that's the man. No, he plays the Steelers. That's why I'm not playing him this week. My bad. Yeah, I'd probably go Brady, I guess, in that spot.
Cool. I'll let her know that she should change.
Oh, stop it.
Had to.
I'm literally not playing Allen this week, so I'm backing that one up. But I knew there was some reason I wasn't playing him. But I was thinking about it. I was like, I would play him against the Colts, so I don't know why I'm not playing. What questions? All right, no good questions in the YouTube chat. Any good questions?
That's a firm statement.
Might just be an ongoing one. Mini Mard asking, do we know if Christian McCaffrey will get his normal workload? There's no reason to think he wouldn't. He's a guy who had his full workload until the last game last year, so I would think so.
Yeah, that came up in. I know I've been bringing this up a lot. My wife's season-long league, the girl that's in first has McCaffrey, and she was nervous that they might shut him down because of them having nothing to play for. But that shit ain't happening in week 15.
No, yeah, that's like a week 16, 17 thing. And I think last year he even still started week 17, but then he just came out and he played like one snap and that was it because they wanted to keep his whatever starting streak he has going. But yeah.
Now, for real, he shouldn't play. Not a snap.
He probably thinks he could still win MVP. Which
he can't.
No, he certainly can't. But I think players don't think like that. They think like, or he just wants to get to 2,000, like, or whatever. There's some statistical milestone I'm sure he would like to hit if he can.
For sure.
I don't even know what his like that's something actually which we need to I'll probably take a look at this week a little bit, but there are guys who have statistical milestones within range, and that is one thing that does matter a little bit for football down the stretch, where you'll see guys get fed for either contract milestones or just like if McCaffrey's on the cusp of like breaking some receiving yards record or whatever, or receiving just actual completions record, they will feed him the ball to make him get there. So but I would definitely say like McCaffrey is very safe this week and probably safe next week too. Who do you have for 8K on FanDuel for cash in the flex?
Jesus Christ. Josh Jacobs no, that would be a terrible play for cash. Ignore me there.
Is Carson that price?
Carson's 74, so like that works. 8K. Yeah, Carson if you don't already have him, but you almost have to already have him. Fournette is 7,700. That would be a guy that I would look at. Todd Gurley. If it's a wideout. I don't know if there's a single wideout that like I would just say like this is an absolute cash game play. Julio.
Here's one I could tell you is not a cash game play from Dave asking if Brashad Perriman is a solid play for FanDuel cash.
Nope.
No, Dave. I mean, look, he might get there today, but he's projected for 1% ownership, but he looks very overpriced to me on FanDuel. So I would say that's a combo of no and no for Perriman.
One of the safest no's that I have today.
Yeah. But Dave, post some food for me, please. I like your food picks.
No one likes Dave's food picks.
No, when they're bad or they're good, I enjoy them. I enjoyed food picks. I'm just a guy who likes seeing people's food picks.
They're all like different shades of mauve.
They do often look like a mother's sofa in the 70s.
Oh, it's perfect. It's perfect. The only ones that I enjoy, and I know that I'm opening up Pandora's box when I say this, is anytime that I see pictures of Detroit style pizza, and not when you buy it at fucking Little Caesars.
Timothy McDuff, I think this question is relevant. It's a little higher level question than we usually take here, but how do you guys differentiate between cash and GPP? For cash, for football in particular, you're following the ownership and their overall projection, their median projection being providing a decent floor. For GPPs, you're willing to take guys who have less ownership or higher upside. And generally, you're trying to do that a lot more. But Josh, anything for you that you'd want to say to Timothy here to try to differentiate?
No, for FanDuel or for football, you're looking for high point per dollar plays and subsequently guys that are also being owned by other people. It's a little different in NFL compared to like say NBA, where it's super easy to figure that sort of stuff out. With the variance in outcomes for football, you can get away with it a little bit more. But like Perriman, for example, should not be anywhere near a cash game.
Great pizza pick from Dave there. I love it.
What is Legalized talking about right now? Is that really happening?
That's always a question. Are they traded Kluber?
Is that real?
I don't know. Probably.
Rangers nearing a deal for Indians ace Corey Kluber. Kluber to the Rangers. Yeah.
They're getting everybody. They got Kyle Gibson. They did not get Kirk Gibson. And they also got what's the guy? Jordan, whatever his name was from the Brewers. Jordan Lyles.
Michael Jordan?
Yeah, they got Michael Jordan. He's coming back to baseball.
Ah, smart. Maybe he could ruin another. Thanks, Dave. Thanks for fucking nothing.
great hitters park in Texas for Michael Jordan to return to. Looking at the YouTube chat for any other good questions here. Tight end, I guess we should talk about a little bit. For me, it's very much Zach Ertz. I do have Higbee and Ian Thomas this week. I think Higbee's safe to go back to with no Gerald Everett out there.
Agreed.
Certainly some risk he comes back down to earth, but I think they're going to keep the 2 tight end move out there where they've been running Higbee and Johnny Munt together to block better for Gurley because they can't block well.
What was that guy's name?
Out there. Johnny Munt.
That must be rough.
He's a big tight end guy, so probably not. I can't imagine you're talking much crap to Johnny Munt.
No, I can't imagine.
I mean, maybe when he was little, but he's a beefy boy. He's a blocking tight end who's specifically in there to block. So he's not the guy you would tell him what his name rhymes with. I don't think. Probably not.
What a bunt.
Yeah, a classic bunt Johnny Munt is. But yeah, no, Higbee to me still seems fairly safe at his price on DraftKings, $3,900. I don't mind that at all. Thomas cheaper, a little more appealing. Josh Perkins would be the minimum price tight end I'd be willing to take stabs on for Philadelphia because he was running routes like a wide receiver. Big body dude too, which they do not have in that wide receiver core right now. So Perkins to me, not a bad minimum price play. Who'd you get a tight end? Did you get Darren Waller? I feel like you must have with Alex's projection.
Of course I did.
Yeah. Darren Waller. Yeah, like Alex and Darren Waller have the man love association, the man crush of a lifetime.
Yeah, and I'm going to be having that man crush too. I'll be right next to Alex, and never mind.
I think I know where you're going with that. that would not be allowed on the current.
Hot Toddy's almost gone.
But what are your thoughts about Lizzo at tight end? Yeah, so I
wasn't ready for that, man.
I knew you wouldn't be.
Great callback.
We had a separate conversation about Lizzo's thong before the show, so that's why that came up.
Yeah, that can't be on this stream.
Yeah, tight end. Final thought on Henry. He's going to be limited. Oh, he's asking not about Hunter Henry. He's asking about Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, I have no real fear of. They said it's a management plan. He lost snaps last week to Deion Lewis. Certainly a risk, especially at his price point. He's not a pass catching back, but I would err on the side of thinking that they're going to get him in there enough where he'll be fine. Who else at tight end do you have?
Higbee, Kittle, Ertz, Kelce, Henry. I mean, the guys that are like real.
Yeah, I agree. Like, to me, Ertz is very real. I got a little bit of Kittle in my Atlanta stacks, that are the few of them that I have, just because that seems like the logical run back. I'm still not as much of a week-to-week believer on Emmanuel Sanders and Deebo Samuel. And a matchup like this one in particular against Atlanta, where I don't think they're needed as much as Kittle would be just on a weekly basis. Did not get Hunter Henry at all this week. I could see why maybe you would, but not you, the general you. Yeah, not that great of a play to me. I feel like tight ends felt like the most straightforward position this week for me. Like, I have Ertz, Higbee, and Thomas, and that's really the lion's share of my ownership.
Speaking of Lions, I don't know
where David Blau in there?
I don't know. No, I don't know where I'm going with that.
Oh, damn! I was hoping you were going to get some. Hoping you were going to get some. All right.
I didn't.
Defenses real fast, because this week, I mean, we don't usually talk about them too much, but I do think this week defense is particularly flat in terms of I really have no read on one that I like a lot. I was willing to pay for the Patriots because I do think Dalton's in a real bad spot. The Mixon can create production on the ground against the New England run defense if they commit to it. But who'd you get the most at defense?
The Giants. Giants, Chiefs, Panthers, Bucks.
Okay. Also, we did miss John Snyder's super chat. Sorry, John. Pick 2, Anthony Miller, Amendola, Jacob Hollister for a PPR flex. Miller and Amendola would be the 2 for me.
What's the question again?
Pick 2 out of Anthony Miller, Danny Amendola, and Jacob Hollister for a PPR flex.
The first 2, Miller and Amendola.
Yeah, Hollister is a little bit of a flaky play. Jeremiah Johnson, no Ian Thomas. Yes, no, I do have Ian Thomas. He is one of my core 3. Again, it was Ertz is my main guy, and then Higbee and Thomas, and then a tier below them, I would put Josh Perkins. Anybody on Bears offense at all? Julius Johnson asks in the chat. I find them intriguing, actually, and I have one stack with Trubisky. Trubisky runs like he did against the Cowboys. That is a much different offense, and they did talk about that during the game as being a deliberate focus of getting Trubisky out on the run instead of taking the crappy throws that he does. So I think he could be a little sneaky in a spot where you have to assume Green Bay will score some points, but I didn't back that up with my lineups enough this week to really advocate for it.
I don't have much at all from that side.
Yeah. What about McLaurin on FanDuel? Pharmacist Yoho asks. I'm going to assume you got no Terry McLaurin.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Does he have a stupid price? If he doesn't have a stupid price, I would think he's okay on FanDuel. I mean, not somebody I'm dying to get to, but yeah, so 2% at 6K on FanDuel. I don't mind that as a stab, especially if you are like me and you think Philadelphia can get some work done in the passing game. I think that if you're running it back with McLaurin, that's what I did with a couple of my Philly stacks. But I don't feel the need to run it back with Philly stacks with Washington necessarily, just because they're such a dumpster fire. And Haskins stinks so bad, as we've discussed all year long. And your Dwayne Haskins stat update, a 4.4% interception rate, which is the highest on the slate. And his sack rate's actually come down. So kudos to him. Actually, no, that's wrong. That's wrong. Never mind.
Great stat.
PFR changed the way their table's done. So randomly, there are a couple stats that are in the wrong spot now, which is very frustrating. Why change it in week 15?
Perfect time to change it.
Ugh. They're like their yards per attempt changed for like to the longest play of the season now. And then I guess their sack percentage has changed to, I don't even know what it is, but whatever it is not right. So I'll fix that.
I'm nervous.
Kane Smith, any thoughts on Matt Breida?
Nope. I don't have a single share.
I think I have one because I have enough Mostert that I would make one pop up, but Mostert is the lead back there, and the lead back is still only good for like 15 touches, if that. So there's a lot of risk. KC defense, a must start. Tim K asks, no defense is ever a must start, but they are one that I have this week.
Yeah. They're probably a must start in cash. Maybe.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, they're highly owned on FanDuel, so I'm speaking from that perspective.
Yeah, I don't know what the defense ownership is on DK this week.
It's not important.
Oh, Lions are the top defense. That makes sense. I got a lot of Lions with Alex's projections, but I'm playing too many Bucks to actually play the Lions. So
okay, I got to talk about two things. One, Jason Cornell says pizza or nachos today. Spags, please answer my question.
Nachos.
Okay. Brian Buckley says, I just farted in my roommate's cereal box. My question is whether or not to let her know.
You can't. She could actually get sick from that. You can't do that. You get fecal matter from a fart. That's not good.
What kind of cereal?
Is it Count Chocula? I would hope.
Yeah, chocolate frosted flakes. They are now.
No,
It's chocolate frosted flakes now.
It's Cornell Richardson. I did not even see your super chat, but I assume somebody wouldn't lie about giving a super chat. So Cornell, I'll take your word here. Dak, Tannehill, or Fitzpatrick in season long. That's got to be Dak.
Yeah.
Like I have real concerns about Dak, but if you're going just off of like if he's been your quarterback all year long, stick with Dak because he gets there in garbage time. Why would you fart in your roommate's cereal? That's horrible. That's horrible. I don't really get offended by things. That's horrible.
Why does a woman live with you?
Yeah, definitely don't fart in a woman's stuff, and don't fart in anybody's stuff. Like that's legit. Like there are specks of stuff that come out with that. That's bad.
The answer was Frosted Flakes, I believe.
Oh man. That is one of the grossest things.
You should just go buy new Frosted Flakes.
Yeah, like be a good roommate. She would have to like have killed your pet or something to justify that kind of treatment.
I'm sorry that she won't sleep with you.
Don't incel her cereal box. Don't Embiid my status asking thoughts on Hunt today on FanDuel. I'm going to assume he's somebody you didn't land on.
Not a single share.
Yeah, conceptually, I don't mind Kareem Hunt, and this is talking about more on DK. But yeah, it's not a great play overall. But I don't hate it because again, the passing offense or the passing defense for Arizona is so bad. You could see him get some passes in the flat and do some damage.
Did you see the screenshot that Alex just posted? That is incredibly blurry, but nevertheless, his possible winnings on DraftKings right now is $8 million.
That'd be nice.
By the way, Luka out a couple of weeks.
Oh, really? I guess that sprain was not that good, huh?
No.
The fart cereal, too much chatter. To be clear, it's not even a wet thing. It's just the air. Like air, there's atoms and everything, guys. That's the thing to learn about farts. It's to learn. People asking if it's his mom.
Do you got a sweet car bed as well?
She's gonna get the sickest PlayStation for Christmas.
Oh yeah, for sure. You better make sure you take the garbage out.
All right, guys, we got a few seconds left before lock. So if you haven't gotten those lineups in, make sure you do it, because that is an important part of the process, is putting lineups in case you haven't realized that yet. We don't talk about that often on the show.
Yes. No, we don't. $8 million.
Oh man. God. I feel good about this week, which means that Jameis is going to leave in the first quarter with his screwed up thumb.
If any quarterback is going to leave that early out of my 7, I hope that it's Jameis.
Oh God, I really hope. I hope Jameis doesn't Jameis me today, but this is the first week I've played a lot of Jameis in a while, and I don't love playing a lot of Jameis ever.
He's my least owned quarterback that I have.
Oh my God. Why did we flip this week? I guess the price, that's the thing. I take the price when it's not a good time to take it.
You said it.
Yeah, that's it. All right, we're locked, guys. We're locked. I'm taking the season high Jameis price like a smart DFS player, but whatever. That's life sometimes. We appreciate you guys. Hit that like button before you go. Also, remember, even though the Hooters main event is closed right now, fantasydraft.com is still your official home of rate-free DFS. So check them out. Play all the tournaments on there, because you'll be saving so much money for your bankroll. All the money goes right to you. Use the promo code AWESEMO, AWESEMO, for your free 7-day trial in your world. You're entering into the world of rate-free DFS. Very important for you. And also use the promo code live before lock. It is still applicable right now. And in fact, it is now just a weekly promo code. You're not getting half off your first month. You're getting half off your first week. So if you're commitment averse like I am in other aspects of life, you can use that promo code right now for yourself and get half off your first week. Use the promo code live before lock. And Josh, anything you want to hit on or plug right now?
Let's go, Saquon. Take me to the promised land. I'm going to win that loot. Good luck, I guess.
Yeah, good luck. And also tune in later for the NFL Live Before Lock show coming up at 7:30 East Coast time, I believe. And
Yes.
NBA Live Before Lock coming up at 5 p.m. East Coast time today.
Correct.
So that's a little bit earlier there with EMAC and Fast Eddie Fear. So watch those. Actually, I think EMAC on both those shows. So
yep, Eric in the evening.
There you go. Get double your EMAC in your life. Always a good plan if you want some positive energy in your life. But we appreciate all you guys. See you guys again next week. So enjoy your weeks. Good luck.